City Council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Nicole, you mind doing roll call real quick?
I will try. Councilmember Cohen.
Here.
Councilmember Myers. Councilmember Streetman.
Here.
Councilmember Bogosian.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll. Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Mayor Powers.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. There's Katie for the record. Katie, we've got menus. Just circle what you want and flip them over. All right. Well, thanks for joining today. We've got a working lunch. So we'll keep it as efficient as we can and keep rocking. We've got scheduled from 10 to 2. Just a reminder, we are live streaming today for the residents' benefit. And today's really, there's nothing right or wrong. We're not voting on anything. It's just open dialogue on strategy and go forward and what we all want to work on. So again, it's just a hopefully nice open dialogue. And Sean is scribing for us along with Nicole so we can capture to-dos or assignments or whatever we talk about today. Last couple of election cycles, we've done this offsite and done some team building, done some training with it based on feedback from council. We wanted to do it in chambers this year and really focus primarily on strategy and kind of go forward, if you will. So let's just run through the agenda real quick, and then we'll come back and touch on each item. So first, we'll look at our current strategic plan. Douglas and staff included that with your packet if it wasn't at the top of your list already. You'll recall this strategic plan we did staff and city council along with the College of Charleston, I guess in 21, finalized it in 22-ish, somewhere in there. So we'll look at that just to make sure relevance and things are still good. We'll look at our current project updates. Douglas will do that for us. We'll spend hopefully a fair amount of time on any new initiatives that we want to talk about and put on the board for prioritizing and working going forward. We'll talk about threats to IOP, whether that be revenue or operations or staffing or whatever. And next we would do legislative opportunities, whether at a federal or a state level, and things we may want to direct our lobbyists on. So all of that will be fairly high-ish level, and we'll not spend time on budget items because we'll start hitting budget workshops in the next 30 or 45 days or so. But I know we'll deep dive here and there. But we will take a deep dive on some numbers with the beach funding options, and the Public Services Committee, Scott particularly, has been working with staff to present some options for us to take a gander at as far as cost sharing on the beach renourishment project coming up. So we will take a dive there on some numbers, but hopefully on other things we can keep it fairly high level from a strategy standpoint. And then we've just got kind of a catch-all from a miscellaneous standpoint, and then we'll adjourn. So other
just a comment. I think we should probably stay away from as much trying to solve the problems here today. And I think you hit on it and keep it at a high level. You just identify what the initiatives that we'd like to attack are and maybe where they go from here. Like, would they go to a committee or would they go to a workshop or all accounts, whatever the right next step are maybe, as opposed to trying to solve the problems in here. We'll get really bogged down, I think, if we do.
Yeah, fair. Actually, you've got a menu in front of you, so just make a choice and they'll get it taken care of for us. Yeah, we'll get lunch out of the way first. Yeah. Most important. Yeah, and John, I agree. We'll attempt to keep us at a strategic level and initiative level as opposed to trying to get to some detail and solve things today. So let's, Douglas sent out a couple of weeks ago, I guess, the strategic plan, current strategic plan for the city. You've got it in your packet. Let's just spend some time there walking through. It had a 5-year time frame, I guess, on it for a review. We haven't looked at it so much from a review standpoint, but if we can just maybe just spend some time walking through how this lands on you. Some of you may be seeing it for the first time in a while, first time ever maybe. I do notice a typo right off the bat on the mission statement. It's a community in South Carolina. Fix that. So if you think about from it's a pretty short document, intentionally so to keep it pretty high level. Is there just any initial reaction to content, style, look, feel, length, anything more that may be needed from just at its highest level on a strategic plan as you took a gander at it, John?
I mean, I think it feels pretty good, but I think we've had a lot of other community efforts that kind of went along parallel to this over the years since this was developed. And it seems like it always comes back and is consistent with what this strategic plan is. So to me, it feels really right based on not only when this was developed and there was community engagement with this, but it's been validated every single effort that we've done since then, that this seems to be the issues that the community feels really important about.
That you can tie almost everything back to. I know with the community enrichment plan, it was pretty heavy. Rusty and Bev.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Well, I don't know how many of us in the room here were part of this when we put it together in 2021, 2022, probably just a few of us. But I'm with John. I think it's pretty consistent with what we deal with every month in committees and also on council also. And I like the way that we typically tie our council agenda items back to a strategic priority, refer back to that. So that, I mean, that keeps it sort of top of mind. I guess my question would be that at some point, and it's too early on, I'm sure, but it's a 2022-2027 plan. So as we go through this and we consider it, is this something that we ought to reconvene at some point and say, is this still accurate for what we need today? You know, I mean, I think certainly the mission statement and the vision are all I don't see that changing much at all, but some of the priorities and goals need to be readjusted.
Yeah, I guess my question was going to be on those lines, like Rusty, of, how often do we review it? And is this a good time to review that, especially after we get through new initiatives today or whatever? I was able, anything that I was, new initiatives that I was thinking of in preparation for today, I was able to tie it into each of the strategic plan areas and goals. So, but just curiosity, how often you do review it.
Yeah. I mean, Douglas, I don't know if you have
I mean, the goal was 2027.
Yeah.
I mean, that was when it was authored. That was always the goal of the document. I do think we would do that. I mean, one way or the other, we would update it in 2027. It's just, if there's something we wanted to start thinking on now, we could certainly do that prior to 2027.
but formally.
But
Take it in
formally, I think we
27.
would kind of make a decision in 27 if it works, if we want to change it, if we want to amend it.
Mm-hmm.
Good to start thinking about that now.
Katie.
I feel like having the community enrichment and this and whatever else we look at occasionally for comprehensive plan is too much and cumbersome. I mean, it's one thing to look at one thing when you're trying to make decisions. It's looking at three things is just, I don't think that's going to happen. So I feel like we need to have some sort of goal of when we look at this again in next year, that we try to make those three documents inclusive somehow. Because I feel like if we have three documents, we're one or all are going to get forgotten about and overlooked.
Yeah. Good.
Or one person's going to look at one and one person's going to look at another one.
No, I think just to add to what you're saying, Katie, strategic plans are usually at least looked at when you're doing your annual plan. You go back to your strategic plan just to validate, is it still correct and directionally the high level guidepost? And I think we're kind of doing that. I think when I went through this, it seemed like just about everything in this high level guide was still pretty relevant. And we may want to take a deeper dive next year or whatever to just do a deeper validation. And, I'm hoping today that when we go through this process that, if we do just identify initiatives or validate the ones that are underway, that we do document it, we kind of describe it, quantify it with something measurable. And I'm not talking about going into the weeds on detail, but something that we can shoot at as far as a goal and a timeline. And then also make sure that any new initiative we do have ties back to one of these, because this is the plan. Anything else, we're going to have very limited, I think, bandwidth this year with the beach projects on board, the waterway projects on board. And if we, pile on 20 different dilutive efforts that are not related to the strategic plan, we're just going to do ourselves a disservice. Everything should kind of tie back into here. Now, we've got other tasks that we're going to have to do. There's no question, but from a strategic and initiative standpoint, everything should probably tie back here and be measurable.
And Douglas, to Katie's point about the comprehensive plans dictated to us from
Correct. Have to have
not
that.
code. Is that a state level?
That is a state level requirement. If
Yeah.
we're going to have a zoning code, we have to have, that's kind of the hook that they get into. So
Comprehensive plan.
comprehensive plan, we're going to have that. It is, it's really driven by it's driving your planning initiatives. So things like your zoning code, your development codes, kind of the physically built environment. It's really what it's kind of geared towards.
Mhm.
And I guess I would say the community enrichment plan, I almost see different kind of levels of planning. This is at the highest level. Comp plan is kind of a middle level land use code. And then the community enrichment plan, really gets very granular with specific recommendations. So I do think that one will kind of run its course, and, each committee is kind of digesting all those initiatives. Something will either come of those or not. And I think, in a couple of years, those will have been either kind of addressed as an ongoing thing and continue in that light, or satisfied and checked off. So I think that one will have a shorter lifespan. Comp plan will always have. This one is probably one that'll be just a higher level plan.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan makes sense that it's kind of separate, but the other two, I think we need to have some way of.
I kind of disagree. The comprehensive plan covers all the areas. It covers transportation, finance. It covers everything. It's not just how we view developing the island. And we are required by law to have it. Where I kind of felt like in the enrichment plan was, if you look back in the history of the comprehensive plan, it started off with community input. That rolled into the planning commission, basically taking that community input and putting it into an executable comprehensive plan. And this time we've got the community enrichment plan and the comprehensive plan created by two different groups that did a lot of places they agree, but they don't. Where I kind of felt like we should have taken that community enrichment plan and used that into the revision of the comprehensive plan as an input to it. And then that, again, the strategic plan is more high level. That's the goal. So everything that goes into the comprehensive plan should be tied into the strategic.
Right.
And I kind of felt like that was a mistake on the city's part this past round, was creating a whole separate plan and now trying to reconcile the differences and all, and just kind of creates more work.
But Douglas, talk to how, because I know we created the matrix and burst them out to all the committees. Just talk to that. how we created
Yeah.
it.
And I don't remember the exact number, but it was maybe 215 recommendations in that community enrichment plan. It's been doled out to various committees, and one of the committees receiving recommendations to sort through is the Planning Commission. So to David's point, it could be that, and they have fairly recently finished an update. They could go back, the Planning Commission could go back and and take the feedback from the matrix, put it into that comprehensive plan, and it is constantly being reviewed and updated. So it would be appropriate to do that. But each of your subcommittees is working through their list of initiatives that's been assigned to them, varying rates and varying progress depending on the committee. But each of them are having kind of constant attention and work being done on them.
I guess I'd just like to see it all come together. If we are going to redo it in 2027, feels like it would make sense to have some sort of, I mean, even if it's just at the bottom of the paragraph C, page 47 of, like.
So you make it definitely combine what's left of the community enrichment plan with the comprehensive plan. It sounds like, to get it down to one actionable document.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think on the community enrichment plan, it was 200 and between 200 and 300 recommendations. I think what we did in our committee was, when we were, bouncing this off the recreation folks, the public service folks, a lot of this stuff was already in flight or done. The challenge we had was they weren't necessarily prioritized, quantified, or timelined. They had dollar signs and, could be forever, but it was many of the recommendations were very good, but they were very altruistic and way beyond our means and way beyond our timeframes. So I think what we did is we said, look, let's pick, we had the actual departments come back to us and say, hey, which ones are already done, underway, or done? That culled it down to about 4 or 5 remaining. And we picked 1 or 2 that we thought we had budget for and timeline for, and said, let's focus on 1 or 2. And that way, we could not boil that ocean and get anything meaningfully done. And we had other things on the plate. So I think that approach seems to have worked. And I think the department heads came back and said, look, most of this stuff's already in flight, done, or there's no way we're ever going to be able to do it because we don't have the budget or the time or the resources. So that seemed to have worked.
Yeah. So maybe the low hanging fruit that's actionable gets kind of knocked out in the next year or 2. Those that are more aspirational gets vetted through the planning commission and incorporated into the comprehensive plan. So that plan gets kind of handled and dealt with that way. Maybe it's
And
part gets done, part gets memorialized in the comp
I
plan.
don't know if I don't know what the solution is actually. Possibly it has something to do with putting it in the strategic plan or something. But one of the things that I noticed when we were talking to the department heads and going through our list, and they're saying, well, we're already doing that, we're already doing that, we're already doing that, was that clearly we are not advertising, telling people what we're doing, because the group that was spent hundreds and hundreds of hours deciding what needs to be done didn't know that a lot of this stuff was already being done. So we're missing some sort of communication, and I don't know what the best way to do that is.
Priority 2.
It's right here on
Well,
the
get
Let me get Bev real quick.
Okay.
Trustee,
I was
now
just going
come
to say, I have not looked at that community enrichment plan since our last meeting. Yeah. When I was on that, but I do recall that we talked about anyway, that there was a column going to be on there for the community that said, what is the status of this? And I know there's been a lot on everybody's plate, but it might be good to just update that and, done, like you were saying, and, budgetary item, long-term budgetary item can be done now.
And I think a lot of
whatever, push it to the budget.
status is on the matrix, not
That's correct.
the original plan.
Yeah, that's
Right,
it.
you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that way, the community could see it too.
Yeah.
And we'll know where it is.
Rusty.
Yeah, thanks. Douglas, where are we with the different committees and them reviewing the community enrichment survey tactics that were presented, each of them?
Each committee is at a different level.
Planning
Some
Commission's
level
been
of flight.
further ahead than
Oh,
most of the
yeah.
other
Yeah,
committees.
I think planning is, I think environmental is kind of coming up to being pretty in good shape on their list. Planning is pretty far down their list. the others are in kind of varying degrees of flight.
Yeah, and I think, it being as tactical as it is, I think that's the day-to-day stuff that we've got to review and see how do we incorporate that and whether or not it even fits in the strategic plan. If it doesn't fit in the strategic plan, you take it off the list, basically. Getting back to the communications that Katie had brought up, I think it was Katie or Bev, I guess Bev, had brought up about regular communications back on where we are with the different matrices. Some of the notes I'd put on here too on our priority 2, develop an effective, consistent, timely communication plan, is that we aren't doing a very good job of that really with the general public. And one of the things that I had on my miscellaneous notes for later today, and there probably are others who do the same, is maybe we ought to have more regular communication with the community, quarterly meetings with all of council, however that looks, and regular public relations type activity that communicates this on a regular basis. Here's where each committee is with these particular tactics, and kind of keep it top of mind that way. Because we solicited a lot of constituent involvement, and we did the same thing with the strategic plan. We did a survey to kind of help us identify the different areas. So we owe it to our residents. They gave us all that feedback to keep them apprised of what's going on.
Yeah, we can certainly, we have those status updates, but they are in a separate, not public document. So we can certainly take those updates, feed them into the plan that is hosted online. I don't know how easily, we're doing it all in Excel, and we'll just have to work through how easy that online version is to edit, but we can do that for sure.
But I think, John, back to your original point, it's been interesting to see, whether it's been the sea level rise plan, the comp plan, the community enrichment plan, I don't know if there was something else, but I don't know that anything's come out that said, oh gosh, we need to add that new priority or goal to the strategic plan. Everything is fit underneath somewhere, which has really been interesting to me, that says this plan is probably pretty good. From a strategic high level standpoint, if we've had multiple groups working on different things that all still seem to fit, sounds like we may be down to a coordination, to Katie and David's point, and a communication effort to Katie and Bev's point. So, and I know, we're doing newsletters and web updates and everything else, and we may just need to talk through some of that later as we get to initiatives or miscellaneous. How do we hit it better or more?
Yeah, we've talked about that on the environmental committee a good bit.
The communication piece.
Well, a
Yeah.
lot of times the information's out there, and it's just a matter of putting it out there in 70 different ways so that everybody hits their. And eventually, evidently, you're going to miss people no matter what. But just trying to get it out there as much as we can.
Mayor,
Yeah.
so as we go through these, does it make sense to, as we look at new initiatives or to-do list or whatever it is, to put down, as Scott said, quantify it, put it into a timeline, whether it's, the first 180 days, whether it's this year, whether it's long-term, push it out. Does it make sense to do that as we go through our talking here?
Yeah. And primarily new items. Bev,
Yeah,
you
new
thinking?
items
Yeah.
or to-do
Tweaks
list
or
or whatever,
whatever, yeah.
let's get it done, within a couple months or a
Yeah.
month. Or, some of it's going to be low-hanging fruit, can be done tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe not tomorrow.
Douglas, on
This
the,
afternoon.
I mean, we do finish it too. Douglas, I don't know you or Sean or Josh. I mean, I know y'all have been spending some time on the web and communication and tweaks, particularly around the beach management stuff.
yeah.
And maybe this folds into other pieces if we're thinking about how we're tweaking. Because I mean, if you look back a number of years, the output is significantly higher than we've ever had.
Yeah.
Is it the right output, the timeliest output, the right place? I guess that's the follow-up
Yeah, and
question.
I don't know that council has been, I don't know that we've talked about this, but the position that the CVB shares and the expense with was a tourism promotion position. That was Chandra. Chandra did a tremendous job in kind of getting that position established and up, running, kind of handling that position. But it was always tourism related. It always had kind of a rosy outlook and a cheery outlook. With Chandra leaving, we thought that might be an opportunity to just change that position a bit. Joshua Ace, who's in the back of the room, has taken that role, and we've had dialogue with the CVB to change that to really a public information officer. So, we made them aware that it's not going to be all kind of rosy tourism related updates. It's going to be more just information, good, bad, ugly. It's just going to be disseminating information at a little bit higher cadence and a little bit deeper in terms of the content, and not just focusing on tourism. CVB was totally on board with that. They have blessed that kind of change, that change in scope of that position, and we're trying to. Sean and Josh have been working very closely together to kind of come up with a strategy over the course of the year as to how to kind of build storylines and what the appropriate medium is to disseminate that information. So really, a lot of work was taking place in December with developing a new strategy and a new method to get information out that we're very optimistic about. We think it'll be a good shift, and kind of taking again what Chandra built the foundation for, and taking it to a little bit of a higher level. So we're excited about that, and I hope that it will fix some of the sense that people have that they're not getting enough information, or not getting it quick enough, or it's not easy enough to, as Katie says, almost it's kind of there, but it's not delivered in an easy to digest fashion. You've got to kind of dig through packets or agendas or minutes or videos.
So should we hold that kind of and this is where the conversation today, we're going to go down many tangents we're solving here, I think. I wonder if we should, hold that thought until we get to the initiative identification. The initiative might be, hey, we're going to develop a new communication strategy. We're going to resource it. And by end of first quarter, we're going to be rolling out a brand new communication strategy. And Joshua gets to own it. And maybe that's how we kind of go about the day. Just identify, assign, quantify, and put a high level target on it. Because I think if we get into any one of these initiatives, or we get into a 20-minute, 30-minute conversation on each one of them, the day's going to blow by here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I just wanted you to hear that there's some work
it's
going
good.
on.
It's good to know. Yeah.
And I think, it's very obvious with the beach updates that are going on. The landing page is right in your face. It's been very routine over the last 45 days or so. So, but I'm with you, Scott. And Bev, to your question, yes. I think that's exactly what we wind up with here today is an initiative, a timing, if there's budget items to it, we'll park it there. So. Right. Feel decent with strategic plan and that whole conversation? Yeah, Douglas.
So just takeaways for us to kind of jot down. Definitely got that we're going to update the status of the community enrichment plan, kind of the matrix, be sure that that's put onto the website. Any other kind of concrete, and we can do that we can do that within 30 days. Any other concrete updates for staff or a task out of that one? I did have just kind of a holding note about the community enrichment plan projects either getting done or ultimately getting rolled into the comprehensive plan. So we'll keep that as a note. Any other things for staff?
In talking about the community enrichment plan, again, I think you have everything tied to the strategic plan in that matrix, if I remember right. Maybe
A lot of columns in that matrix. I don't know.
Yeah. But it kind of goes back to, I think, kind of what Scott was saying is to try to get it out of the committees now is either the committees need to take those for action or just defer it to the strategic plan.
So they are being identified as aspirational, some that just can't get action instantly
Right.
or in the short or kind of.
Well, within probably the next year, if they
Yeah.
can't, if the committees aren't going to start working on it, just push
Roll it
off
into
the strategic plan and kind of get
Well,
that.
to add to Rusty's comment, if it doesn't fit in a strategic plan, we probably ought to just park it or
Yeah.
Well,
Should
but
it
I
go
meant,
to full
should it be
council?
in the strategic plan so that it goes into that process of,
Yeah, it seems the review of each of those tactics should be, okay, does this fit in the strategic plan? If not, park it in a separate place. Let's deal with the things that are part of the strategic plan. And I think the other takeaway for me anyway was, this is extant through 2027. Do we consider as we go forward through the year of another review, another revision to see if it's all still relevant?
Okay.
I'm not saying full blown like we did in 2021, 2022, but at least some cursory inspection and more feedback from our residents and constituents.
Comment.
Yeah, right.
I think there needs to be an update made public as soon as possible about what's going on with the community enrichment plan. It's something concise that we can get out to the people, especially the volunteers that spend all the time coming up with this very good recommendations. I think it should be made a priority by this council to get it out, a public document.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Katie, did you have a comment?
I was just gonna say, if we were gonna nix something, I feel like that should be discussed with all council before it goes away,
Before,
An item,
an item
Got
gets deleted off of it, then it comes back to
Probably.
council.
a full, not a committee level, full, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, just a status report is what the people are asking for.
Yeah, and that's on their to-do list.
Yeah,
in the
Right, to
next
keep them,
30 days.
to keep them hanging is not what I'm in favor of doing.
So Douglas, why don't we talk about current projects
Okay.
before we get to new initiatives, if you don't mind? And this is
Yep.
in your packet, as far as an update.
Yep. So the first, and I'm going to go by the capital projects order, not the slide order, if that's all right. But Waterway Boulevard multi-use path elevation project. This one this has probably been the top of your list. Phases 1 and 1A are complete. Phase 2, you will just authorize the contract for the Bastion Group on that one. Phase 3 would be coming in the winter, basically a year from now. We did talk a little bit about the cost of that project at your last meeting, and Scott made the point of it being a $5.8 million project. Kind of went back and looked at that, and what has happened there is we were holding the cost of those projects to only include construction costs. So we've been calling that a $5.8 million project, which that is true, but that is only the construction cost. There is an additional $500,000 in there that is design and permitting costs. So we have not been including the soft costs on that. And I guess I have seen a little bit of an inconsistency, and this is just going to be, related to other projects as well, that we sometimes will have total cost, we sometimes will have construction costs, we sometimes will have soft costs. So we're going to try to be more consistent in how we present those costs, and we will go with total cost and then itemize out construction and soft. Questions on that one? That one's kind of most pressing, and that one's going to be the most obvious in the community in the next couple of months.
So Douglas, just so I'm clear, so going forward, all of our presentation material will show the components of basically all in cash outdoor costs and
Yes.
and timing.
That
Okay.
that's what the staff plans to do. Is
Okay. That's great.
stop just doing construction, but start including all those.
'Cause those add up.
Yep. Next one, phase 4 of the drainage plan. This is Palm Boulevard improvements between 38th and 41st. We were planning for that work to take place this winter. We got word back from Thomas and Hutton that due to permitting constraints and just sheer kind of bandwidth problems, that was going to be not realistic to be completed in the winter. So we have advised them that if we don't want to do it in the summer. So that project is being delayed until next winter. We also, to the point on, we have an estimate on there. We've been talking internally. That estimate has some age on it. So as part of our budgeting work that'll start here now, we're starting that now. We'll get that estimate updated. I also believe that one is only inclusive right now of construction costs. So we'll also add the soft costs to that one.
Douglas, is there any danger in losing anything from a state budget allocation?
No.
Okay, so we're
No,
safe
not-
there.
Yeah, that one bucket of money, they're very
Flexible.
free about and flexible about it. It's the FEMA grants, the specific grants that we have these hard deadlines with.
Free up another 30 million.
And Douglas, so we're pushing this a whole year, not just to fall.
That's correct.
And this one's still not, we don't have permits anyway, so we
That's
couldn't
correct.
do anything if we wanted to, but
This is probably a little bit too much detail, but this is one that we actually had designed on the other side of Palm Boulevard. We learned that the water and sewer project was not going to take place. There was significant savings that we could achieve by moving it to where the water and sewer lines had been planned. So that started a redesign. That redesign is now done, but they are putting that redesign back through permitting with the various agencies. So it changed that project.
So this aligns with water sewer?
We had moved it to, it basically is going in the place that water and sewer had planned to go.
yeah,
Because
their project.
Their project's dead. And it was they had chosen the side that was most advantageous to the drainage lines to put their water and sewer lines. So it's allowing us to put it in a better design and save money at the same time. Next one, the green space at the Isle of Palms Marina and the public dock. This is one that's been here most recently with the public facilities group. As you will recall, and from new members of council, that the city has been working towards really at the end of that project would have a lease amendment with the restaurant owners. But to get that lease amendment kind of authorized and underway, we are trying to work through how the parking lot reconfiguration would work. And the goal there would be to get away from shared parking. So the restaurant would have their exclusive parking and the city public space would have their exclusive parking. And we would go away from this shared parking, which has been, it's been challenging. Kind of with all tenants, it's always been a challenge that we've had with that site. So we are down, and I think we have a workable design that seems to have favor with the committee. We've been talking through just details of materials, and because those obviously drive the costs. The most recent kind of favored material is a gravel driveway with a concrete edging to kind of make it a little bit more attractive. And so they're continuing their work on that. And I think they're very close to having a recommendation to come to council. That will really just start the process of amending the leases. We'll go through a lease amendment process with those marina tenants. Assuming we can get through that successfully, there then would be an actual engineering component and a construction component. So still a lot of steps on that to get it completed, but
There's also an
That one's
update on
underway.
that of our public services facilities meeting tomorrow, right?
correct. Yeah.
So we'll be discussing that.
Yep. Yeah, that one's been underway. Katie, anything more on that?
Stay tuned.
Marina dredging. This is one where the city was given $1.5 million from the state budget allocation to do that work. We now have permits in hand to do it. but we have made, and I won't use the word commitment, but we have made an effort to work with surrounding property owners to allow us to collaborate on the cost of dredging. We thought it would be advantageous to be able to save on that mobilization cost, but we're now faced with an issue where we have our permits, we have our money, we're kind of ready to go. Council will need to make a decision if we want to continue. Do we want to delay and allow for all the others to get their permits, or do we want to continue on our own quicker than that? There is the other issue that we have, and we still don't have any resolution to this, but council will need to identify the favored disposal site. We've heard from some Goat Island residents, their objection to using the closest disposal site. That has been the one that our consultant ATM has been working with to try to get that site usable. So that's underway, but so that we'll have two decision points for council in the near future. Do we go at it alone sooner? And what is the disposal site that we'll use?
A question.
Yes.
Do you anticipate any cost overruns on this? Because I remember last time we did this, it was a huge cost overrun. They got in there and they found out there was a lot more to it or something. I'm just wondering if you anticipate any of that.
Yeah. Let me ask ATM on that. This is another one that's been, it's probably been, I think our cost estimates are at least 2 years old. So let me put that as
back too.
The last dredging.
Yeah, but at least 10 years ago, I imagine.
Yeah.
But I do remember it came in much higher.
And Douglas, because the city permit just goes certain areas around the marina, obviously not everything. So when you say nearby owners, is that Morgan Creek?
That's correct.
Potentially
Yeah, Morgan.
Louise?
Yes, Morgan Creek, DeWeese, and actually out onto the intercoastal.
Okay.
I think there are three separate nearby property owners that are in the midst of trying to get permits
Got
as
it.
well.
That could join in
Yep.
the efforts.
We do think that they are probably at least a year away. It's kind of the most recent. It's not that they are dredging areas that have never been dredged, so that makes the permitting a little bit more complex and more timely. Kind of the latest update we got was that they were probably about a year away.
These are three independent permits.
Yes.
So
Separate.
we'd hitch the wagon to the slope. We'd be in an HOV lane of permitting.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and it's 2 permits each, so it's 6. We'd be kind of waiting for 3 groups to get their 2 permits, so we're kind of waiting on 6 other permits. Beach maintenance and renourishment, and we're gonna dedicate significant time at the end of the meeting. So I'll be quick here. The emergency work is all that's been authorized is in place. I sent you an update from Stephen Trainham last week or this week. He's been making site visits. He did point out in his most recent update that he does not think, where I think we were hopeful that the shoal would come onto shore in Wild Dunes and spread north. The conditions he's seeing indicate to him that we will not get as much spreading north as we had initially thought. So that puts the Ocean Club property, they really will be in a bit of a hot spot until the major renourishment happens. That is an area where you will recall that the city did not authorize sandbags, or we didn't pay for sandbags in that area. They have that building covered in scaffolding. It's still covered in scaffolding. So we have made that property owners group aware, of what Stephen's determination is and kind of his forecast of what he sees happening. And just kind of standing by on that one. So the emergency work, I do think that Stephen believes that elsewhere, the emergency measures that are in place are holding up decently. We have the Army Corps of Engineers work. You'll recall that there are two distinct projects that the Army Corps is working through. We just got word last night, and I don't know if it actually happened last night or not, but ATNA, the group that has been working on the island for, I guess, over a year now, they have been given authorization, and I think are planning to begin 24 hours operation here in the next few days. So that's a new mode of operation for them. They are trying to get ATNA out of the way through the course of January and February. That work has been dragging, as you know, but I think their production is up now. They are moving their pipes up to the 6th, 7th Avenue area, and their production should be higher. So they're trying to get them out of the way by the end of February. That would give their second contractor, Cottrell Dredging, who's going to be doing the intracoastal waterway dredging, allow them to get out of each other's way and be able to work together or not have to work together or around each other. So that Cottrell is on site. They're working on the northern end first. They're then, I think, going back to Folly Beach. They're kind of bouncing around a little bit to buy time to allow ATNA to get out of the way so they can come do the intercoastal work. Major renourishment. We had a call. And again, we'll get to the funding challenges of that. In terms of the permitting on that, we did have a call last night with Stephen. Stephen had a call that afternoon with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They are indicating that we may have a conflict, and this gets into they are setting one set of time constraints for the inlets and a different set of time constraints for the non-inlet work. So this is creating a situation where really the city would have to go to work on the inlet sections, then move operations or pause operations to come back and do the non-inlet parts. So he's going to continue to work with the Fish and Wildlife group to try to come to a resolution, but he left that meeting, didn't leave the meeting feeling well about that. So that's an issue. It is different species on different sections of the beach at different times of the year.
And protecting those. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, they were, we had a little bit of a dialogue back and forth about if those were hard and fast rules or if they were things that we could mitigate. He was indicating yesterday that they could be hard and fast rules. So we're trying to work through those challenges and either, get some relief either on the dates or the reaches that they're saying, move those lines a little bit to allow it to all happen at once. But as he finished his meeting yesterday, it had this kind of decoupling of the two,
Which would add a lot of cost to it.
which would add an additional mobilization or a pause and then a remobilization.
Are these new rules that Steve didn't know about, or what?
So what is, what is happening is the Fish and Wildlife Group is trying to develop a programmatic biological opinion. So they're trying to come up with basically a checklist that would apply to all projects up and down the state. They are developing this now. They're about to issue this, we think, now, and of course it's right in the middle of our permit request. So there is a little bit of changing the rules kind of midstream for us.
I mean,
So-
did they deal with it? Well, never mind. I don't want to get it.
Yeah.
Violate my own.
So more
Get into
to
the
more to come on that. I mean, I think that was a kind of preliminary meeting that didn't go as well as we would have hoped, but more to come on that. We'll continue to work on that.
We'll put that in the threat category later.
Yes.
Well, and if we need to leverage lobbyists in some way at the federal level.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an
Help.
interesting. It is federal rules, but the
Yeah.
federal rules in this situation are only applying to the state of South Carolina. They have a similar programmatic biological opinion in Florida, and I think it's worked well in Florida, but it is a new program that's going to be hitting South Carolina. So more to come on that. We're just learned that last night. Undergrounding power lines. This is a project that will be on the to-do list of the Public Facilities Committee. SCDOT Palm Boulevard bike pedestrian parking enhancements, and I don't want to bog this meeting down with the details of the TST funding questions that we've been having, but we have told Charleston County that this is a project that if TST funds were to be extended, this is a project we'd like for consideration. So very much in a conceptual stage still. Yes.
So on that TST, this wasn't in the response though, correct, that you gave to Charleston County?
It was in there. It was.
I thought it was just Palm Boulevard, not the biking.
Well, that
Or
it's
was
a
that all in
reconfiguration, and there was a schematic that was developed with the DOT that shows all of these improvements that was provided to Charleston County.
Okay. Can I ask a question on that? Because I was kind of surprised, and I think I emailed you on that council did not get that request. Is that normal, or it seems like we should have input?
Just it was a timing issue
on
this
that.
year.
Yeah, this has been an interesting, and I don't fully. Well, and we can see that other communities are also
Douglas,
struggling.
you call it interesting. I would call it a cluster, but go ahead.
Where
Oh, there's that.
Yeah.
the county has hired a public relations firm that's looking and trying to gather information for the potential for extending this TST referendum, TST funds through referendum. They reached out to us, and it was either in October or November, saying we would like to be on one of your future agendas. We did not have an agenda. We didn't have a workshop in December. So we talked about being January, not a workshop in January. So that got them scheduled for February. And they talked about wanting kind of a fully vetted list. We explained to them, we haven't gone through any kind of orientation with you all, so you're not going to get a fully vetted list. But they've said, can you just send us kind of any list prior to getting a fully vetted list from City Council? So they're aware that it's very much a guess right now as to what council may want to embrace, but they indicated that would be helpful for their initial kind of starting point.
And I don't want to bog down this meeting with that. I just have one question, really. Will we have an opportunity in February when they come to still add to that list if we want to? And
Yes.
maybe.
Yes, that and they realize that it's at this point it is kind of my opinion only. It's not a list through council, and that needs to be developed by council.
Because I got worried when cities were asking for extensions. So that seemed to be a more formal process than what we were doing. So I just don't want to get lost. I don't want to get forgotten. Not me. I mean, I don't want this body to be forgotten in that transportation conversation.
So Doug, correct me if I'm wrong. So they're trying to get this on the ballot in November to extend the 0.5% tax. And if you look back when they first originated it, basically, I guess it goes back to public relations. They were trying to present, here's all the projects that can be done if you approve this tax.
That's
And-
correct.
And that's not that list from even the original one can change over time. Things can get dropped, things can get added. So I think they were just coming from us, from a public relations, what type of projects can we put on the ballot so that people will see?
That's correct. This is, the money
Yeah,
is,
it's
So that's-
important. That list though is important because when taxpayers look at that and say, what are you spending the money on?
Right.
You want that on that list. And if it's not on the list, it's not being done. So, you know.
Well, it can be done. It can be added later.
Well,
It's just the taxpayers won't see, oh, there's these other plans the city has. So even if we don't never do anything with Palm, there'll still be advertised that that's where the money could have gone.
yeah, that's correct. It's not an official
Right.
project
Yeah.
list. It is a public relations effort to get the word out about
but it
this
could
referendum.
backfire on them, which is what they don't want to happen.
Right.
Which we've seen, in other referendums that have been on.
Rusty.
Yeah, well, it was a timing issue because there's a change in county council leadership too. So now that's bubbled back up. Transportation committees in various municipalities, Mount Pleasant in particular, and I think maybe Folly or whatever, have had some previous meetings where City of Charleston too, in North Charleston, where they've tentatively identified some items that should be on that list, but then asked for the additional time. Where it came into a problem for me, and maybe Bev was alluding to this a little bit too. I did get the question from one of our residents, and I think we all got it. Okay, what are we doing? We've got these other municipalities, or large municipalities. They've got a wish list. Have we done anything? And I responded to that resident because at the time I said, not that I know of. I know that we've all often talked about Palm Boulevard renovation or whatever, looking at the connector and its viability for weight bearing and all that. But that's where, to Bev's point, I think too, we need to make sure we get out there. We get items, even if it ends up being very low priority throughout Charleston County, we need to have our list out there and say, hey, look at us, we need this. And communication wise, it was just a little bit of a disconnect because I was surprised too to see that we had this feedback to the county regarding TST.
Yeah, there just was not an opportunity to get that group before.
And I know it's
council,
council,
yeah.
holidays, nobody was meeting, that sort of thing.
Right.
I get it.
They had a representative come and speak to the Carter board in November. And what struck me is it's really important about if it passes, the referendum passes, what new projects and initiatives would benefit from it. But just as important to me is what that we have on the table, the things that are being taken care of now that we take for granted, have the strong possibility of going away. And so I think you all are going to find it interesting when he comes and speaks to us on February 11th. But it was very informative. It's not, again, it's not so much the new project. It's a lot of what we have right now that we're going to lose if it doesn't pass.
One more comment. Just for timing, if we're trying to time these things, if I'm understanding you right, Douglas, when we went through this, the ones that are, say, calendar year 26 that we are going to be able to focus on, it's the waterway project. Sounds like drainage is pushed now, right? So
Yes.
the 2026 projects, calendar, not fiscal year, are the waterway project, the dredging. Does that sound? But that's a decision
that's
whether
a
or not we
decision,
go on
yeah.
on the permits.
To be determined. Yeah.
Green space, marina green space would be
That
2026
we can do that.
if it were to get through a lease amendment process.
The beach, and I know we're going to come. Oh, the dredging. We talked about the beach. Now that's kind of up in the air on whether it's 26 or 26, 27. We don't know yet. We really don't.
We are fully planning on it being 26.
We were talking about Sand on Beach in March, but that's or April.
No, you were talking June or July.
Yes.
So that could still be 26. And then the underground power lines and the DOT Palm Boulevard, those are probably
Out.
future.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to get timing. Okay, thanks.
The DOT power line, I mean, the power lines, burying power lines will be a very small project. If we only allocating 75,000 to it,
Yeah.
it is not gonna go far.
Well, the last kind of plan on the power lines was actually to create a master plan that would help the city prioritize these small projects. So the first project would actually be a plan that would then drive future requests.
Prioritization.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's not going to be a major project. All I've got.
You good, Douglas?
Yep.
All right. Well, we take a quick break. There's coffee here. There's drinks in the refrigerator if you need that. I would just remind you, we're still live streaming as we're on break. So,
Sorry.
so let's just take a quick 5 or 10 minute break. our current projects underway and initiatives. Let's shift gears and think about future world, if you will. And kind of, Scott, to your point earlier, it doesn't have to be a calendar 26. It can just get on the list if there's something that we need to prioritize from a budget or timing standpoint or bandwidth. Let's just put one on the list right off the bat, this communication we just talked about. Douglas, I think he talked about 30 days or so, we can have the community enrichment plan updated. I don't know if there's a new strategy coming out from the work Josh and Sean and crew are doing, if there's, kind of by month or by whatever, but if there's something there that's new and improved as well.
So,
So communication strategy.
yeah, how about if we do, I'm just going to throw this out. So this would be under mission, goal number 2 in the strategic plan. We tie back to let's tie back to the strat plan. And I think, Philip, you said, so we got 2 things under that, the community enrichment update. And then the second one is the Josh, or the overall communication structure framework is going to be changing.
Yep.
Correct. And those are 2 separate initiatives.
That's correct.
I didn't know is there a document or strategy coming out of that, or what
We hadn't,
y'all's thinking?
yeah, we had not, unless Sean, I'm misspeaking. I don't know that we had expected a written communication strategy to come out of that, as opposed to just an internal strategy. But I think we could do it either way. I don't know that we anticipated that being a council product, but if you all would like it to be, it could.
What's that? The
Communication strategy. So this is kind of the story. We have the website updates. We have the kind of social media feeds. We have things that are going out in a newsletter. So we kind of have various mediums, and I guess the art of trying to find the different targets for each of those and how they would be repackaged for each medium. And then what information are we going to try to get out kind of over the course of the year? We know it's going to be very heavy leading up to the beach. So, I mean, that one's obviously on the forefront for us, and how we're looking at other communities that are doing it well, trying to kind of copy what's already been proven to work well. So again, that was from our standpoint, that was going to be just kind of an internal working flow.
Even a one pager that just for illustration that says, hey, here's our communication outflow networks,
out.
whether it's what's our chat bot thing that we use?
Sunny.
Or social media or print or whatever. Here's the scope of the things we're going to cover: the beach, or events, finance, whatever. And then, frequency, how often there's our target that we're going to do it, and who's, if Josh's name is next to everyone and all of them, then he's the lucky guy. But I think even that would just be helpful so that people can recognize, especially on the beach stuff, when are we going to get, how often are we going to get communication? Once a week? Hilton Head did it once a week. They did outbound e-blasts to the residents. Those, I think, even just there's a reference doc would be very helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing too elaborate.
Yep. We can do that.
And just as a real simple, I'm looking at the islepalms.net, and we have this awesome little calendar, what's happening on January 13th and 14th on the main page. I click on, for example, Public Services and Facilities Committee meeting tomorrow, but there's no links. If we had on those meetings links of what was happening, the agenda, and then also potentially, like the community enrichment items, or, a link. I feel like, because that's how most people, I think, are kind of navigating this.
It's through the calendar.
Calendar.
Yeah. And not the agendas.
Exactly.
Yeah, our website's not hot linked, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
basically.
because that's a great page, but then you click on it and all you get,
There's a headline.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have to dig.
You're exactly right. And we're accustomed to it, so we know where to go. But if you want to look at the agenda for the meeting tomorrow, or whatever you do, you have to go back to that other link, look at agendas and minutes or whatever, and click on that particular committee and pull it up that
Right.
way.
Yeah.
And
I live on the
that's
agendas
cumbersome.
page, but it makes sense that the
Right.
general
Right.
public's living on the
Right.
calendar
Right.
page.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Because
So
that
it's not-
page is,
it's not-
that's like, that is great.
Yeah.
But then you get past that and you kind of stop.
Yeah, you should be able to
Or
just
have to go
drill down
multiple
and hit
layers.
that
Yeah.
link, be able to drill down and get everything you need.
Okay.
Could I add one other thing about the PR piece? I mean, without us getting in the weeds about it, I do think the one pager or whatever, what the responsibilities and, the structure of the PIO position. But one of the things I think should be incorporated also, just me talking, is that we need to have, templates in place for various activities or events or whatever. I mean, like, for example, storm season, you ought to have a template you start with and say, okay, we have an impending disaster. We have this template we start with that we can add to it and communicate to it. We need to really have a way with our PIO that we're more proactive going forward than we are reactive. Because in the past, it has been more, tourism related, but there are times that things could come up, unfortunately, on this island. We need to be prepared for ahead of time by having some sort of template in place that we can get out there ahead of time and then add more information to it as needed.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense or not. But
Now, per se, timing is first quarter. We don't want to
Yeah.
nail dates down,
Right.
but be broad stroke. Is first quarter doable for these two?
So I
small
think,
things?
the community enrichment plan update, I think that's 30 days. Yeah, I would say communication
Don't pin
strategy.
yourself down.
Well, I would, yeah, that one I think,
Or a quarter.
and I could be, but I think the next, and I have communication strategy with templates. I think that would be first quarter. And then let us look into, I know the website is tricky, how to kind of link calendar and agenda pages. So depending on how challenging that is, it's at worst first quarter. But I think it could be done quicker. We'll see.
Can meet Bev Miller right there on that website. And David Cohen.
How about adding one under the communications? How about, quarterly town halls? Where we're actually getting all the council up and have it over at the rec center and, loose agendas and have people come and let's make it a two-way street because we've had I think a lot of feedback we all get is people come up to the podium during a meeting, they talk, we're looking, it's like, thank you very much. Well,
Next item.
next item. And, town halls can be very spirited, fun, productive, entertaining, and all of that stuff. I think it would be a great idea to get the residents involved.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I think about a little over a year ago, now we kind of discussed and it fell off, was the roundtable discussions with residents. And because I had brought up the same issues that people speak at the podium and they might speak to something that, is happening and they just aren't aware of it, or they have misinformation or something like that. And I felt like we don't engage with them to and then it's on public record. And if people are listening to it, they're continuing to spread the misinformation or whatever it may be. So I think the roundtable discussion or, a town hall with all of us, I think it's a great idea. And
Just for reference, we can engage with people that are talking at the podium.
we can.
Yes, we can.
And I see
And-
value at not doing that too.
I do too.
Only
I'm not-
because of the time frame but that's where these town
Right.
halls
Just
would
kind of
really help.
But if there's something that's completely off base, potentially it might be worth a
Yeah,
quick
and I
comment
think the
that
mayor
corrects
has
it.
done that, from time to time when it's something like egregious or something like that. But
I can also remember it blowing up
Well, that's true.
big time.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's not a hard fast rule if there's this situation that requires it or
There's always the potential that anything open and public can get somewhat volatile.
Absolutely.
That happens in any situation. There's some municipalities that, that have not only their citizens' comments at the front with the 3 minutes or whatever their time limit is, but they also allow at the end of the meeting to have citizens' comments for any items that were not brought up during the council discussion that a citizen would like to make the council aware of.
Carla does that.
It wouldn't be an agenda item that was already on there. So
Yeah,
it wouldn't
anybody
be
can
like
speak.
it wouldn't be like a rebuttal to what we've been discussing during our meeting. It would be something that would be completely different, new and unique, and just added to the discussion. Say, I'd really like to make you aware that this is something you ought to be dealing with. I don't know. So
Yeah,
kinds of ways you can do it.
Carla does that, and you don't have to sign up.
Yeah.
The chairman just says, does anybody like to speak?
Like a miscellaneous.
At the end.
schedule these?
And
It could make for a longer meeting, but
is March something we could shoot for a first town hall? Maybe. I mean, we're not voting, I guess, but just a suggestion.
Yeah.
That'd be
I
first
think
quarter.
we earlier talked about maybe twice a year, but quarterly, something like that.
See how the first one goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Total bust.
Might come annually, ask the residents what they would like to see. How often would they like to have that interaction? They might say, never again.
While we're on the calendar, can I just bring up one more thing? And I know this came up in November, that there was no November meeting. Is that normal? I mean, do we not have a November meeting? So it's like never on the calendar. It's not on the calendar now then, correct? Only because we talked about this a little bit in admin, and Jimmy had brought this up about, we have regularly scheduled meetings. So we know when our workshops are, we know when our meetings are, and the citizens expect that, right? So sometimes you have to deviate for whatever reason or another, and then that calendar changes. So everybody expects that November meeting, unless it's not on the calendar right now, so that they can look at it, go to November and say no meeting. Or we just keep it on, but make sure that it's communicated in good time that the meeting is canceled. That's all. Just setting resident expectations of meetings.
In the past, there's been years when we canceled 2 meetings, usually like June and November, because we get so busy during hurricane season. So we try to get, we'd passed a budget, the end of May.
Right.
And sometimes it would be July. But that was in the past.
I guess all I'm saying is just making sure that calendar, when it's published, that if we know now we're not going to have a meeting, let's not have it on the calendar now. Let's have the council look at the calendar, see if there's any issues with, upcoming, especially council meetings.
Yeah, but Siemens should have a placeholder for the committee meetings. This is when our meeting's going to be, unless there's no new business to be discussed.
Right.
And at that point, you get out in front of it, say, we will not have an administration committee meeting this month. because
Right,
there's
as long as
no
it's
new
communicated, and that's where that
Right,
communication plan
I
is,
mean,
and that's what I'm tying this in with that,
That's
you know.
my thoughts on
Yeah.
it, but I don't know if traditionally we've always said, well, in November, we just don't have meetings, but it seems like it turns out to be that way. So,
We've hardly ever had a November or December meeting.
yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying, if that's
Yeah.
practice and it's not on the, then just want residents to know that it is not, we're not gonna have that, period, or keep it on there but make sure that it is canceled in plenty of time, that's all, so that residents' expectations are met.
Yeah. Sean has just put up on the screen the 2026 calendar that we've developed. We did want to have a committee meeting and to just kind of set the day of the month for each committee before we really finalized this and publicized it. But this is what we are anticipating the meeting schedule to look like. And I think we would just share that sentiment that we do hear back from the public that when meetings get changed from the regular date, it's hard to track when that happens. And it's also, a little bit turbulent for the staff to try to kind of fit in meetings if we're not aware of that date well in advance. So we would like to be, if there's a need to meet, we obviously will meet, but we would like to try to make a concerted effort to stick to the calendar going forward. And, and it does not currently have
November or December.
November or December.
And Douglas, it doesn't, I can't really read that
Yeah.
from here,
Well,
but
it does. Not, what it has is that historically what's happened is we've had a workshop / meeting in November. And that's what's currently on the calendar for November. So we don't,
We had a meeting.
typically we just have this one in November, right? It's not that there's no meeting, it's just a combined meeting. This year, I think it happened on this one.
Yeah.
We rarely have one because that fourth Tuesday, obviously Thanksgiving falls. Historically, I did go look back, like in the last 5 years, we did have one time when I think we needed it. Same thing is true in December. That special meeting is when the mayor is making those announcements that we all voted on a couple weeks ago. Have we historically had other meetings in December? Absolutely, because it was a condition in which it was required, beach stuff, blah, blah. So that's what, it is currently there like that. Okay, good. So,
It's I guess it is a council meeting, but it's on your workshop.
correct.
date as
Right.
opposed to.
Yeah,
And
there
Doug-
is something.
and Douglas, I can't see that clearly, but the committee meetings all line up so that they're held before the workshop, correct?
That's correct.
That way,
They would be
that
there
way
the
the
week
business that
before.
gets discussed in committee can go directly to the workshop in the
Correct.
next few days or the next week, whatever the timing is,
We
without it
we
carrying
usually
over
have
another
those,
month,
yeah, we usually have those on the first Tuesday of every month, the
Right.
committee meeting.
Yes,
to catch the workshop.
you
To make sure you catch your
You
workshop.
wouldn't be able to see the key from your seat, but this light green is the committee day.
Yeah,
So first
okay.
Tuesday. The light gray is workshop, second Tuesday. The red is your full council meeting, fourth Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and then these are, planning commission, ATAX, court. So these are other dates, but council would be first, second, and fourth Tuesday.
Need eyes in the back of my head.
Just want to get my social security checked. Tuesday.
So see, you can check that off your list already?
Well, this isn't reflected on the web calendar,
That's
I'm
correct.
guessing, at this
We
point.
wanted to get this out
This
to
needs
you,
to be out.
and then we
Yes.
would take this, if everybody's good with it, and then populate the website with calendar. with
I mean,
those.
January is always kind of wonky getting committees assigned, and especially in an election year to get things done. All right, anything else on communication while we've kind of got that one teed up?
I have something related to that, but
So make sure
Oh.
you're speaking in.
I know you mentioned the arrangement that we had with CVB on the communication, but if I go back and recall the whole purpose that we originally developed that position along with the CVB agreeing to split it was that they would spend half their time rebranding, finding a way to rebrand the city to kind of a family friendly, and help CVB along with their marketing and tourism advertising to use that branding for IOP. And as far as I know, that really didn't occur, and it kind of shifted, and the whole use of Chandra kind of moved away from that. But to me, that's still a very high priority, and kind of definitely fits our strategic direction or strategy. And I'd like to see us find a way that we continue that effort, and rebranding the city into a family-friendly destination. And whether that goes under communication or whether that goes under the strategic initiative number 4, where it's protect the residents' quality of life and the impact of short-term accommodations, I think it fits in either one of those two places. But I would like to find a way, whether it's through our own effort and maybe even using 30% money on our own to hire a marketing company to rebrand the city. But I definitely think that we need more work along those lines. And it even fits the core of our strategy. At the top, it even says family-friendly destination along our mission. So I think absolutely is in a lot of different places within our strategic direction. So I think we need to find how we're going to do that. And I'm not suggesting that we figure that out here, but it definitely should go somewhere to do more work on how we do that.
Douglas, in your discussion with CVB, would we have and you said they were in favor of this whole notion here. Is the cost sharing arrangement still the same?
Yes, with that position, it is still the same. And I think that they have expressed a willingness to hire a third party for this rebranding.
They've always been
effort.
helpful in doing anything like that if suggested to them. So that seems to me like it'd be an easy fix.
I just have a question. You say they're not branding us as family friendly. What are they branding us as?
I think this would be hire, if I'm understanding that task correctly, it is to hire a third party firm and I mean, it may be similar to the process that the county is currently doing with this TST fund, where they are hiring a firm that would create, a method to marketing a positive, family-friendly brand to the greater public. So it's not it's not being done, but it's not a concerted effort at a branding effort. So this would be a specialized third party that would consult with us, develop a strategy, and come up with a way to push this out to the world, the brand that we want to show ourselves as. So right now, I think to your point, it's happening by just, we are a family friendly environment, but I don't think there is a branding effort being pushed to the outside.
What does that mean exactly, branding effort?
If you look at I guess I look at the CVB, their publications, they all have a look, they all have a feel. They're trying to appeal to kind of, upper income. You see their look
Isn't that
in
what we ask
airports.
them to do, though?
The tourism
Yeah,
and
but
marketing dollars it casts a wide net. I mean, we're talking about 10 municipalities, the greater Charleston area, Tri-County area, that cast a wide net. And within that wide net, you can go in and there are links that go to different beaches, whether it be Isle of Palms, different accommodations, whether it be Sweetgrass Inn or whatever. I think what we're trying to drive at is this, John, correct me if I'm wrong with where you're coming from, is having at least some resources available that would make that wide net that's being cast more directed, some of those dollars more directed specifically to Isle of Palms branding. So
It is. And it's also, I mean, branding is the look of the logo.
Mhm.
It's the message that you send out. It's not only the message that you send out, it's where you send the message. And if we're family friendly,
right.
If we want to portray ourselves and try to attract families here,
Right.
as visitors, then you don't necessarily want to go and advertise in wedding magazines or whatever
Right.
to attract bachelorettes,
Yeah.
bachelor parties, and those type of things. So it's a whole marketing strategy with a branding effort around it to say we really primarily want to try to market and attract families here first.
Mhm.
And that's, and that, like I said, it's riddled through our strategic plan and it's riddled through when we get feedback, but we're not really have a concerted effort of saying we want to brand ourselves as a family friendly and family first marketing destination.
We have a place for everything, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to be a family, you're looking at beautiful beaches, you're looking at accommodations that could accommodate a high-end event like Sweetgrass Inn.
That's
Or
right.
you have condos that could be more family friendly up the front beach or wherever else. We have rental homes to, a certain percentage of those. So you've got something for everybody, basically. And that's what you want to convey is that, if you want to come here and you want to stay, we've got something for your family here that's going to be entertaining. It's going to be beneficial to you. You can spend at any level you need to. And oh yeah, by the way, you're going to have close proximity to downtown Charleston and other areas you can visit. So it just sets us apart.
I kind of have, when you keep using the term rebranding, that is one of my issues with CVB is they rebranded us. We were always a family friendly beach. So when they talk, and again, when I hear them talk and I watch through their presentations, they have a target audience, which is not the family, like the people from upstate, trying to get them to enjoy the beaches of South Carolina, visitors from across the intercoastal waterway, bringing that tourism dollars into our local economy. And that's just not their market. So going back on that, one thing I'd like to throw out would be actually appointing a liaison to our ATAX committee to start looking at how do we implement this, get the branding that we want, not rebrand us, but advertise the brand, the family-friendly beach that we want, whether that's going through CBB or finding another source to do it. But I don't think it's being done now. And when I look through CBB's website in Isle of Palms, it's very directed to a specific market that they target because that's what they think brings in the most dollars. And it's not a question of who brings in the most dollars, it's which type of visitors do we want. It may not necessarily be those that spend the most money in Charleston. And I think that gets back into, like I said, that would be my suggestion is let's get somebody, one of us as a liaison to the ATAX committee and get the ATAX committee focused on getting spending that marketing percentage on marketing for what we want, not what's best for the greater Charleston area.
We have the highest average daily revenue of any municipality in Charleston County right now. Well over $1,000 a day to come in for the stage with, call it what you want, but heads in bed, basically. So it's been pretty effective, quite honestly, that it markets as you drill down into those websites, you look at it, there's a lot of communication there that is not only for Isle of Palms, but the other beaches in the area too. You know, notwithstanding even Folly Beach, which really doesn't even participate with CBB that much. So I tend to disagree a little bit. I think that there's been branding going on that doesn't necessarily bring more tourists, but brings the revenue in so that they're spending more. It's a better quality tourist, if you will, that's spending more on a daily basis when they get here. So, I mean, we could talk about this for days, I guess. But
Yeah, I guess my whole point is that when we all agreed as council that we were going to set up that marketing person with CVB to spend 50% of their time working with CVB to help rebrand the island to a family-friendly destination and work with them on how and where to advertise using that new branding. And from I don't think that has happened. And what I'm just suggesting is, can we put this somewhere to work this further, to say we need further work on this because it didn't happen. We agreed that it should have happened. Now we've redirected that resource to other initiatives. And I still think that needs to continue on somehow. And whether
Any
that's
thoughts about next steps to do that?
I
Would it
don't
be
know if that
ATAX or
would
be a
on the
committee?
ATAX committee to say, hey, we'd like you to kind of entertain this on how you would suggest doing this and make a proposal back to council is one place that I think that's probably where I would recommend that it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of heard three. I heard three separate initiatives. One, we want to develop that family-friendly rebrand or branding, not rebranding, that we don't have. That we want to. David's throwing out an idea. I think we should capture all these, whether they go or no. Liaison to the ATAX committee to work with them on this, and that we look at either looking at the CVB or alternatives through the ATAX committee to spend money specifically on that rebranding effort. Those would be three potential initiatives. Would you?
And I think that's all ATAX.
All ATAX. And everybody is envisioning, well, I guess this is a question. We're talking about hiring out a third-party consultant to work with ATAX to create the strategy.
Well, I don't know. I think we should just throw this at ATAX and say, come back to a recommendation to council on how you would suggest we go forward with this rebranding of the
And
island.
start marketing to the family-oriented visitors, not.
and do that through a council liaison on ATAX.
Well, I
Is
think,
that what you're
I think
saying?
one of the things that we should not solve that issue here, but I think it's brought up as a solution. I think we should tackle that at a workshop, at council workshop and say, should we add an ATAX liaison to council, or from council to
Yeah.
ATAX? And so that should happen at a workshop.
What would the qualifications of that person be? The liaison,
The qualifications?
right? So they have to bring something to the table, right?
I think you're talking about council.
Council
Just
member,
like.
yeah.
we
Just
do
one person on
other-
council?
Yeah, like we have the environmental, like we have the,
Understand
like
all
David
that.
with the beach and, yeah.
And basically, to help report back to the workshop, what the direction, what the ATAX committee's direction, what they're doing, make sure we're in agreement with it.
So,
And I'd like to see the liaisons and or chair people be the ones to report to council on committee meetings. I know we used to do that and then we changed it. I feel like that would be
That
a
was
good
one of
way of engaging
mine.
the liaisons also, I mean, you know, and having them have more of a voice and I just feel like we need to go back to that system.
So I guess I'm just trying to think back. I mean, right now, those are just reports in the agenda. Are you, and I don't know that, I don't know that we
We
don't.
used to report out. I mean,
So we're saying
the
instead of
committee
just being in
chairman
the
would
packet.
report out in each meeting.
At the workshop.
Yeah, I mean,
At
just
the
a,
workshop or
yeah.
what, back in the day, the Ways and Means,
right, just
I
a
think it
blurb.
was, is where
Full council meeting.
yeah, or full count. But it would be the committee chair that would report out on the work or the items that the committee had addressed the previous month.
And a brief, right? Just
Yeah, I
a
mean, that's the
briefing.
way we did it. And we had,
That way the council could have any questions.
yeah, and we had doubled the number of committees and council meetings typically went longer because of the report out, but
Also, just another way to inform the public that doesn't watch the committee meetings. Most people watch, the full council,
yeah,
so,
let's face it,
Get a
most
quick
people don't
update.
read the committee
right,
minutes.
yeah,
So,
makes sense.
Are there initiatives or projects you'd like to get on the, Douglas,
Just-
you good, I'm sorry. Sorry, Ashley.
I think so. I think calendar, I think we got through. We're gonna push that out. The branding effort, we're gonna, the plan there is to assign that to ATAX for developing a strategy for that effort. In addition, at the workshop, council will discuss creating a council liaison for the rebranding or for ATAX. And then this idea of the committee chairs reporting at council. I don't know if there's, I mean, you're not going to vote, but if that's, I mean, that's a,
Yeah, is that
I don't know if
something,
there's consensus for that. I mean, if,
is that something we voted on or
how did it
How
go
did
to
we-
not
how did we get to where we are now?
Yeah, I think we just put it on a workshop agenda and
put that on a workshop?
So to kind of clarify, because it just hit me when you said it. So for our beach, environmental, and ATAX, the chairs of those, which is not necessarily, which is not a council member, would brief, but we're also going to have a council member that's basically assigned to attend those meetings.
Yeah, if it's not a council committee, there would be a liaison reporting. If it's a council committee, the chairperson would report.
Or, well, that's, I guess my question would be the council, or would it be the actual chair of those committees
I mean,
if we have a
to
liaison?
me, it's the purpose of having the liaison, but
Yeah.
Well, the liaison, I guess, is just to make sure that somebody from council is there present at the meeting. It's kind of a, because they really aren't. They're a liaison, they're not a voting member.
Yeah, they're not participating.
So I have a question. So we're going to change the reporting, and the standing committees have always, as Rusty said in the past, the chairman or the vice chairman, whatever, would give a report about what happened in the meeting, and council would discuss the workings of the committee. And then we would just go to the other committees and commissions and stuff and say, no meeting or minutes attached. And so we're going to expand that.
We're going to expand those that potentially those that have a liaison beyond the EAC, and right now the new beach committee also has a liaison. Sounds like the group is going to consider adding an ATAX liaison. So as I understand it, potentially the reporting would be the chairperson for each committee. So public facilities report, public safety report, admin report, then a report from those three committees through their liaison, and then the others would just be minutes attached.
Planning commission, be
Right.
minutes attached.
BOZA, Planning Commission,
CARTA,
CARTA.
CBB. That would be.
Well, that would be
That's part of ATAX.
Yeah.
You have basically what we're saying is whoever the sitting council member liaison for each of those committees would do the report out at the meeting.
Yeah, I'm seeing a little
On behalf
different. I'm seeing like Ron Denton would come and, if there's anything to talk about, there's nothing to talk about. They don't have to, there's nothing to report. They could let us know ahead of time. But Ron Denton should be doing the planning commission. Laurel Evans would be doing environmental. I think she's the chair now. I think,
Yeah, but
or
if she doesn't,
there's nothing to
if
say.
she doesn't want to come to our meetings, I mean,
She could use the liaison.
I'm the liaison and,
Yeah.
I think that would be between the chairperson and liaison. If she's got, if
That
the
works too,
chairperson
yeah.
has other obligation, they didn't necessarily sign up for this. So if they have other obligations or, I feel like that would just,
So
and that would
is that
encourage them to communicate.
Well, that's what I was trying to get exactly, because you've got, again, the standing committees, which we're all agreement, council would person chair would report. Then you have liaisons to committees that you have a chair of that committee, and then you have a liaison. So question being, I'm good with that too, is let them work it out who reports, but one of those would report. Then you have planning and zoning.
Planning and BOZA, yeah. Board of Zoning Appeals, yeah.
Yeah, which are independent committees. So those don't have a council person. So is it the chair of those would report?
And they could easily,
Do you think it's
They
a
could
good
easily
idea to ask
contact-
them what they think about all this?
I mean, that's what I was saying, is they could
Yeah.
easily.
They're appointed, not elected.
Right. And they might say, well, that fourth Tuesday is a rough time for me. I think this is a pretty major change.
And BOZA should stay as independent as it.
Yeah, BOZA's almost
It would probably never
operating
have a
like a
report because it's
Yeah,
fairly
I mean, that's,
straightforward.
that gets pretty personal. I mean, let's face it. I mean, they're, it's public knowledge, but still.
So
They
trying,
deal with some
instead of trying to
issues.
solve for this, should we
Everybody
put this
wants to
on the workshop and then we'll talk about it?
Then
then?
needs a lot of
Yeah.
discussion, because I think
Yeah, or
what we
admin
tried
committee
to
or
do, I
whatever.
think the mayor's tried to do the past few years is condense the meetings into where it's not a 3 and 4 hour affair, which has been, and over the years has happened. I'm a little hesitant, like to hear more, not completely closed off to it, about the positive effects of expanding these reports every month. I know in Carter, we have 15, sometimes 25 board members every month. Mike Seekings has been the chairman forever of that committee, of Carter. And we are right on an hour every month with everything we have to discuss, right on an hour, with citizens' comments and everything. But I would just like to have further discussion. What the mayor has set up and requested the past few years seem to be working fairly well. I'm just a little hesitant about expanding.
Yeah, I do recall when there was a time when the report was the chairperson reading 2 pages of minutes, and those meetings
Well,
did
No, I'm not picturing that at
No.
all.
I remember
This
that.
That's
needs
what
to be-
happened.
kind of the
Well,
way.
but I mean, we can
What
we can
makes
do
that-
better. I mean, yeah, we don't have to I mean, you just get
Why don't we just
synopsis.
take this to
What's
the
important.
admin committee or someplace and have them work
There's
it?
Who's gonna
something
stop
worth
them?
stating.
Once-
Right.
Yeah.
Gavel.
I mean, can we
Do
not,
that.
can we not police
Use that
ourselves
thing.
in that? I mean,
I would
Can
just
we not all
encourage all
agree
of us
that-
to go back and look at some of those meetings.
we haven't been able to, So let's capture it and then we can
Yeah.
not
So
solve it here.
workshop, or I had it workshop.
Yeah.
We think admin's better?
One or the other, okay.
I feel like it should be the workshop. I feel like a lot of people
I
have
guess
opinions.
All right, we'll keep that workshop.
I've got
Ashley, sorry,
something
let me
that,
get
oh,
Ashley.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted a little bit of clarification, going back when we were talking about community engagement. And I know we do email blast and social media. And we talked about the frequency of that. Who is going to decide like how often that gets put out and who's responsible for doing that?
So Josh is the primary kind of operator of that information. Sean is helping organize and kind of oversee that effort. And I think we're going to put that overall strategy into a document, into a plan, and going to report that to one of the committees. It's going to go to that communication strategy for 26 is going to go, did we say workshop?
So we're
I don't know that we said a committee.
So we're going to discuss that further at
Yes.
the workshop. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, do we know how many, like a percentage of residents that are like signed up for that email blast or anything like
We
that?
definitely know, yes. I know we know, what's that called, where you had to sign up? We know kind of Sunny's,
Yeah.
Right.
and then we know who's getting the
Newsletter.
newsletter.
You know, it's
and I
like
think there's
quarterly
some
right
kind
now or
of-
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're going to discuss it further.
So part of
Discuss
that,
it
maybe
then, but
part of that communication
Using that more.
strategy, we'll try to see what metrics we have
provide
access to,
updates.
provide those.
And then back to the town hall roundtable discussion, did we decide or are we going to discuss that further at the town hall versus roundtable? Because it's a little bit different, town hall with all of us there and how that works. Or the roundtable was like 3 tables of 3 council members with engaging with,
Yeah, roundtable is
residents.
what we
And so just
approved.
kind of need to decide
Whatever
which
you're-
of
yeah.
those, which way we're going to go.
My suggestion was, it was more envisioning a town hall where we're all together up on front of wherever and every.
Would we be able to engage with the residents, like,
That's a
respond
town
back
hall.
to them?
That's what a town hall
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
They ask
I mean, they could
Clarifies, yeah.
literally, somebody could come up and say, hey, Ashley, I'd like to hear from you on what you think of this. And,
We're back and forth.
or somebody, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to
Or
go
other
back,
such comments.
we need to go back to what we had approved. And if we're going to change paths, we just need to get that codified. Because we'd approved a roundtable type setup. So we just need to tweak that if we
And that's
want. We need to. Mhm. The resolution, I think.
So the
There's something in front of council. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, a year and a half or so ago.
was it mentioned a quarterly town hall? Would that be setting it ahead
I
of
think it's
time?
to be determined.
Yeah, I think we said that and again, we discussed this or whatever, but to David's point, let's see how the first one goes and then decide.
Right, exactly. Let's see how the first one goes.
We already said that, yeah.
Man.
We'll set some parameters.
I mean, I feel like in the past, I've watched,
They're
we've
bringing
had,
torches.
we've had them.
Well, the chief will be there.
Well, I mean,
Hang on, Ashley.
Sorry,
Take the
yeah.
floor.
Well, I mean, we've had town halls in the past. Like, I remember we kind of had that I remember we had something at the rec center where a bunch of residents got in front.
Topic
and spoke.
specific. Yeah,
That wasn't like,
yeah,
'cause it wasn't
either Short-term
engaging.
rental.
They were just
or
basically
wild
just-
dunes
They came up, they
ordinances.
spoke, they
Yelling.
sat down, about 30 of them, and then the council had their meeting.
It was
and that
very
Yeah.
specific,
okay, all right. So this
Topic,
is,
different.
gotcha.
I'm sorry, Rusty, you good?
no, only comment I was gonna make is you've probably done 50 or 60 coffee with the mayor so far, so you continue those every month.
Yeah. Which
And I
is
guess there's been some element of
town
enlightenment and success or whatever, so.
Well, if you're gonna have town halls at the rec center, I think that anything that has to do with city business is not in this facility should be held there. I'm talking specifically about the Meet the Candidates night. That's been moved to the Exchange Club, which holds a much smaller audience. That's the new initiative.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, one of the things that the Public Safety Committee is going to be bringing forward to council from the last time is using artificial intelligence for better control of our traffic lights and in coordination. That's going to be coming forward. So I'd like to put that on there. But along those same lines, I really think that the city needs to look at how it can more utilize artificial intelligence across all its operations going forward. I think it's an opportunity that fits kind of under operational improvements under the finance section of the strategic plan. But I think there's lots of ways that we can utilize it to get more efficient in what we do, from in our finance operations to our report writing to our tracking of business license. And all it's just endless. But I think we need some help potentially on how we can utilize it. And again, maybe it goes to a committee to figure out what the next steps are. But I do think that it's an opportunity. It would be an opportunity missed for us if we don't start looking at it now.
I couldn't agree more. And, any of us that have been using it for a few years now can kind of see what the power of it is. It actually expands, I think, staff capabilities without having to add staff. It also efficiency, time, resources that are available, and you can use it anything from analytics to planning to crafting ordinances to doing organization chart. I mean, you could use it for travel, whatever. It is a powerful tool. And once you start using it, I think you can, kind of even exhibit. You can drop major files in and have them do comparisons, analytics, presentations. So I think it would be great. And the cost of adding AI to the portfolio is literally in some cases a $20 per month subscription per user. We got to be careful of it. It's a powerful tool, but it can also be very misinterpreted if you're not familiar with it. Just something to consider. I know I've been getting emails, and I actually signed up for one, but missed the session. I don't know if it's MASC or OpenGov or some others are sending email invitations out. There are official independent training organizations that are offering training sessions on how to potentially plug into municipalities, federal government, and other organizations that are, I think they're free. They're just being offered out there. So, I think we do have an opportunity here, and we ought to take advantage of it.
Maybe MASC has something along those lines too. I don't know. Some of you are going next week, I think, and maybe see if they have.
Can ask Desiree perhaps if they know any training opportunities. One other example, the packet that we get every month, you could easily use AI to cut back on preparation, have consistencies. There are a number of things that we could apply it to that would probably help the departments alleviate some of their workloads.
Are we going in any kind of order?
Throwing it out.
Noise ordinance?
Say-
We bring back that noise ordinance?
There's a draft
It's actually
ordinance
been-
that's
it's
going to
been
be
brought back.
going to workshop, the next workshop we have.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What about the connector design? And we're on the kind of the public safety side of the house. What about an initiative on, are we going to recharge that? I think Jan had started some conversations on traffic lighting and some other things with Mount Pleasant, but do we need to kick that initiative off again where we look at some kind of a connector redesign for more efficient traffic flow? I think we should.
Part of that I sort of tied that in with the miscellaneous on this transportation tax thing, because in some of the conversations we've had, it's been mentioned that really the connector in some ways is pretty obsolete already. I mean, it was built in the early 90s. And, for example, if you wanted to redesign and if you wanted to put the concrete median barriers or whatever, we don't know that connector could actually hold that weight. That's been indicated. You'd have to have some kind of study to see if it would even accommodate something like that if you decided to redo the connector and have, one lane for cycling and pedestrians and maybe have a concrete barrier. So, I mean, I think it's certainly something we ought to be looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, there seemed like, we had a lot of effort. There was the surveys, there was the decisions or the direction, and then it just, I think, died because we didn't get buy-in on the other side of the connector. Is I think where it landed.
I think that's correct,
And do we
yeah.
need to, reinitiate those conversations and I don't know if there's a revalidation. I think everything was validated as the kind of the direction we wanted to go. But, again, I'm not trying to solve for it here, but do we want to reinitiate that effort to have those conversations to do something with the connector?
Well, if you do, I think that you need to get consensus from the group, because when it was discussed, when Ms. Anderson was on council, it was like, I got the impression like, we're going with this and this only, and it's over with. But I don't ever remember being a vote. And what I'm talking about specifically was 2 lanes off and 1 lane on. And my school of thought is I'd like to see the emergency lane come back, because for safety reasons, and also to offer it up for the Carter buses in the summer to use that lane. You don't need 2 bike lanes. I'm not a traffic engineer. You don't need 2 bike lanes. You don't need 2 jogging lanes or walking lanes. You can just do it all on one side. But I think we need to have that discussion with council and decide exactly what we want before we go forward any further.
Yeah, I think it was a vote.
We did vote.
We didn't have a vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
We absolutely voted.
I never voted for that.
There was a survey and a
No, you didn't vote for it. You voted against it.
I voted-
Well, we voted for 2 lanes to exit.
Yeah.
Two lanes off, bike lane on the
Right.
incoming side.
Well, y'all, I stand corrected. I need to check
Yeah.
the minutes because
But-
I've never been in favor of that.
What happened?
let's not solve it.
Yeah,
Let's just
exactly.
capture
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
We can't discuss it.
I mean, what happened?
Well, we're
is
going to discuss, we're not going to solve it
It
here
never
today.
got any further than the transportation committee across the way. All right. That's where it ended. It never even got to council over there.
I think the
So-
request is to have initiative to just
Yeah.
restart it. That's all.
Public
Not
safety
solve it
could
here.
take that off.
Okay, you guys got it.
And that's part of that old AI discussion.
Yeah.
About the lights.
But
and
we
stuff.
did have, just to be clear, we did have buy-in from the DOT. Like, they drew those
Yeah,
drawings, right?
that's right. And the community.
And they
We did the
presented.
survey.
Yeah.
All
They
right.
gave us like, my son was
That is
asking me
deep.
about this yesterday as he was trying to merge onto the connector as he's trying to kind of drive. It's scary. And so I was trying to tell him, I was trying to remember, I was like, I'm pretty sure we had 3 or 4 options from the DOT that
Mhm.
and I couldn't remember what the other options were. But yeah.
So what I guess I would say from my perspective, they did help develop the option, but I think my kind of impression from them was unless there's agreement on both communities, they were not gonna, they were happy with the way it was. The status quo was their preferred design unless they had both communities in agreement of a redesign, and that effort stopped with the Town of Mount Pleasant Transportation Committee.
It needs some work. So for that.
So we'll put that on public safety
Yeah.
agenda. Noise ordinance, just to go back a little bit, noise ordinance we have on workshop. The AI question, I put that on administrative committee, or is that just notes for,
That makes sense.
That's fine. Yeah.
Just to start the conversation at least.
there was a comment about moving the Meet the Candidates meeting to the rec center. Is that a committee level discussion? And I think that I believe that's tied to the groups that are
Sponsor.
sponsoring it.
Are you talking about campaign?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
We should
whoever
have nothing to
sponsors
do with that.
the thing.
Not
Was
a
that-
campaign. It's like just meet the candidates. Up until a couple of elections ago, we always had them at the rec center. And for some reason it stopped. And there shouldn't be any sponsors allowed except for the League of Women Voters. No one else should be involved, and try to keep all that out of it. But we've always had them at the rec center. And they just stopped like 2 elections. I think it was 2 elections ago.
I don't think that's a city sponsored kind of a thing though. It's
Yeah,
not a
those
city
are
decision.
outside.
It was typically legal women
party.
voters, and then
Yeah.
you would have a moderator.
Yeah.
They got chosen usually from the media,
Right. Warren Pepper is a mighty.
Warren
Yeah.
Pepper, or
But that's not a city kind of driven
No, but
decision.
he's right. They used
But,
to be
yeah.
at the rec center and then they got moved to the exchange.
there
I
there
agree.
was a time, 1 or 2 cycles ago, where the newly founded Chamber of Commerce had indicated their willingness to sponsor a forum, and I think that's when it ended.
That's
Do
when
we want to assign that one to a committee?
No, I don't think that's a city event. That's not city anything. The city shouldn't be involved with campaigns.
But you may need a directive, a policy.
You mean a policy for the rec
Either we are
center?
in or
Is that what you're
yes.
saying,
Yeah.
as to use
The
of
use of the rec
center?
center?
Is that what we're talking about?
Think so. I mean, if it, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hearing. But
we did it for so many years. And I understand what Rusty's saying. I do remember why that was done, but I mean, you should need, I would think we want to open it up to as many residents as possible to hear what the candidates have to say. And if it's handled correctly and keep the,
And I agree 100% with that. All I'm saying is that the city, you're talking about forums, and the city doesn't sponsor forums. So whoever sponsors a forum, the League of Women Voters won't do it on their own. They have to have a sponsor. So the sponsor is responsible for getting the location of whatever the forum is held at. And if that sponsor wants to come to the rec center, I mean, I'm personally would be all in favor of that. The biggest place they can get to host that forum. And they just chose not to for
asked
some
for it,
reason last
yeah.
time. I mean, I would encourage them, but it's not a city decision on where a forum is held, or the city should not get involved with campaigns.
Well, and maybe it's looking at the policy for the rec center of the use of
Yeah.
that facility that we need to
Exactly.
look at. I don't
So-
know.
I think I'm capturing this as a public facilities question. It sounds like it's just, can the city's
Property.
facility be used for campaign
You good with that,
purposes?
Kate?
Put it on a public facility agenda.
it's a public forum. It's not actually a campaign. It's been done for years and years.
Okay.
And they had it even before the improvements in the rec center were made like 20 years ago. We held it in the gym. I remember after Hurricane Hugo, people were sitting on bleachers watching them meet the candidates for them. It's always been there. There was one instance, I believe, in 1987 where it was held at the Exchange Club. Other than that, my recollection is it has always been, the political question just was out of, forget about that. It was just getting the information out, getting as many people in as possible that wanted to meet the candidates and hear from them.
Mhm.
I don't want it to get all messed up.
other,
Couple initiatives for the consideration, maybe for the admin. I think we got the compensation study that looks like it's going to be on the plate. I'm hoping that we can get some recommendations. Looks like we got some of the information's pushed out now to February, so we're looking probably at end of first quarter, early second to probably digest all that information and go through a couple of cycles and just kind of want to set up expectations. But that's an initiative that I think we want to put front and center for the admin committee. And one of the things we're going to be looking at is the overall org structure of the city. And I think that'll help. Just wanted to communicate what that structure looks like to the community and internally. I haven't seen an org chart necessarily, but also, are there, when was the last time that organization, does the organization of the city fit the requirements of the city and where it needs to go? Can it address current and future needs? And, do we want to give Douglas and the team some opportunity to look at that and say, hey, you know what, it'd be nice if we need this position going forward, or we're going to, we can readjust some things here and there, but just basically an overall organization, validation, review, et cetera. I think those are both things we can do. You know, I guess we put second quarter on that because of the we don't know what the cycle. We have dependencies right now with outside vendors and some other information that is pending from the city internal.
So the comp study has been delayed, the information? I
Yes.
didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting, we are getting information from Evergreen now.
Yeah.
It's, we don't have, of the 20 communities, I think we have 16. I think we're waiting on 4 more. So we are getting the feedback. It's just not it's not complete yet.
Yeah.
They're still trying to gather some information.
And those 4 were like the 3 of them I think are the critical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are
a
they,
couple of those are critical.
Are they expected in time to be able to be completed before the budget? To input into the budget,
Yes.
anything, any adjustments?
so.
Yes.
But that's as soon as it's going to happen. It's put during the budget process, which will be,
Well,
pretty
we're
much
kind of-
finalized in March, April.
Yes, I mean, we are in our budget. We're meeting internally now. So we're, by our standards, we're in the budget process now. And it will definitely be, we're going to have a report to be part of that budget discussion.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I guess first question is, I'm looking through like the compiled reports, it comes out in every package. And the financial reports, maybe it's just me, but, and I need somebody to explain them to me, but who gets value added out of those financial reports as far as seeing what they want to see? And that kind of leads me into, because I could see a lot of changes into how that's reported in the monthly meetings. So my thought would be to stand up a finance committee to actually define what are the reports that we as council want to see in the financial and how it's reported out.
That's a very interesting, it's a good idea, but Scott has led this in the past, and I think he's done a really good job at it. It's like defining, we've been fine tuning this for a few years. And to where, if you have suggestions about something that you'd like to see in there, that'd be most welcome. But I think we look at these financial reports in depth. Is that right, Scott?
Yeah, I hear you, Jimmy. I think we've had some iterative improvements, but from a typical financial review package, I mean, I think, I've been the naysayer for the last couple of years of voting no on budgets for and the reporting, because I can't, aside from our tools being archaic, the errors written in our preparations, the reconciliations not clear, the trends not being identifiable to what our headlights are. Personally, as from my background where I come from, I have real issue with the amount of reporting or the type of reporting that we're getting. I think it tells us how much cash we have in the account and what our interest rates are and how much we've spent at the high level. But, I'll go back to you, when I first met you and there was a Ways and Means Committee, you were talking, you had high visibility into where the money's going.
Right.
And where it goes every month. And also, you went through a fine level of detail as to, hey, what's this? Is this capital project on or off? Where are we going? You had discussion about the headlights and where things were going because of the visibility of the level of detail you had in the financial statements. In my opinion, I think we've lost that. And I think that when the workshops were originally in the ideation stage, it was, hey, this is going to replace the Ways and Means Committee. And I think you and I have had some candid conversation. Usually the presentations are on around our financials are starting off with, hey, in the interest of time, we'll go through these quickly. Personally, I look at, we're going to embark upon the biggest spending spree in the history of the city here in the next 12 months. With the beach, with the waterway, we've already talked about projects and they're moving all over the place. I have said, and I'll keep saying, I think we ought to have a we're not reconstituting Ways and Means, have at least, I think David's idea on a finance committee of, we need to focus as much attention on finances as any other committee that we have going on right now. And I think it's time to do that. I've been an advocate for 2 years about it, and I'd like to see it happen.
Well,
That's my speech, and I'm
I know
sticking to it.
y'all don't, you get sick of hearing it and you shake your head and stuff. We always had a Ways and Means Committee. It was consisted of 3 council members, and then they would report back to the full council for other questions. I think it was a lot more efficient in that you had 3 people very knowledgeable about the budget, and then they could ask the layman's types questions from people that had expertise in other areas that served on council. So I'm open to your ideas.
I think the most recent Ways and Means was full council.
Yeah.
That's been-
And I don't know
But
if
years ago, it was.
Way back, maybe it was.
I personally like Jimmy's idea because that is not my thing. I don't think I would contribute much to a Ways and Means, but I would love to have people that were dedicated to that then could come back and report to council on where we are in layman's terms.
And when I was saying, I guess, putting together finance committees, I guess, and again, it was more focused on trying to update the reports of how they come out and how they appear so that, again, at least at a high level, that they make sense to not only us, but to the public that can look at them and see, we have these projects, are they over budget, under budget? Are they anticipated to go over or under? But just a general, what are the reports that we should have on hand? And that's what I was looking at, standing up a committee just to kind of come to an agreement of, what do we want to see out of our financial reports? Not do a deep dive. That's a whole nother, I guess, discussion.
So you're talking about an ad hoc committee versus a standing committee?
Yes, an ad hoc committee just to, let's look at
it and make recommendations as to how that should be reported out.
yes.
Yeah, I mean,
That's something we probably ought to at least address.
I'd like to see this. I've been an advocate of standing committee. I think that our finances are not being reviewed as stewards should be reviewed.
I was looking at that as 2 different separate things.
So you're in favor of a standing committee?
Absolutely.
We
100%.
just need to be cognizant of staff time, and we've added beach committee. We just need to keep that in our head somewhere. Do what?
I said, we definitely, this is an item that has to be discussed more thoroughly.
Well,
Jimmy, what do you think?
I'm with you on Scott. I would like to go back to the old ways of, we take that deep dive and tell people instead of like one council member saying, well, how much we spending on our razors? This is where we are, this is the view and this is the deep dive. And we have people, they're sitting on this council that could easily, with their experience, serve on that.
And I personally, I'd like to see it sooner rather than later because that way we can help get in front of the budget cycle here. And
Yeah.
with the amount of money, we're going to spend over $50 million easy this year between the beach, our payroll alone is $12 million, and we need to just get those adjustments done and the capital projects. So
Yeah, when you look at all the committees that we do have, we don't have one to look at how we're paying for them all.
good
And if
point.
we don't have that, then we don't have anything.
Oh, don't worry about it. And we don't have,
To me, it's the most important committee. And a standing committee, I think would be in order for that. I mean, when you look at our needs and you look at our revenue, it's important. And for us to look at reports where we can make policy decisions. And
we got
I have a hard
major-
time.
Major decisions coming up
We do.
financially.
we do.
Major.
To your point.
And for the staff, I look at it differently. I think a finance committee can help the staff get equipped with tools that are going to make them so much more efficient and so less error prone with the tools that we've been equipping them with so far. And not to knock the historical tools, but our financials don't tie amongst the reports that we publish. And that's a frightening thing for me. Our capital budgets and our capital reports don't tie to our debt reports, that don't tie to our operating reports, and don't tie to our metrics that we report in our dashboards. They're all over the place. And we've got different inconsistencies in years and periods that we report on. Everybody's doing their best with what they got. That's not a knock on staff at all. I commend them, to the end here, but we've got an opportunity, and I think we ought to use that finance committee to help them out.
Who would have thought that discussion of new initiatives would start so many fireworks? You know, it
This
did.
is something we probably should take to council then, to have a discussion.
Quicker the better for
Made
me.
hungry,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Is that, that's an ordinance, isn't it? Is that an
Sure made you
ordinance?
hungry.
Depending on if it's an ad hoc
I think
committee or,
If it's a standing committee, it's an ordinance.
yes.
All this thinking.
I'm going to go for the fence here. I think we ought to go for the standing committee.
Go grab lunch real fast and just keep going because we need to pick up our speed here a little bit. So let's grab lunch really fast
And
and
we're
then
still-
keep going.
We're still live streaming here.
So
People
lunch
get to
is
watch
in,
us eat.
I didn't bring an ordinance before, working on it on admin committee. So just to let you know, that has started. And basically it's not a, it doesn't take the place of state ordinances at all. It would be a municipal ordinance that would encompass our code of conduct. And in the beginning stages though, so just let you know that's on the docket already and working on it.
I've been
That's
thinking
with-
about
with
it since you
admin.
brought that up. Excuse me, Douglas, I'm sorry, but I would like to, as a byproduct of that, consider at the beginning of every year, at least every 2 years, have somebody come in like we used to and explain ethics to and rules of order to the entire body.
I love that. And I'll have some things for later. Now, I looked at it as under miscellaneous, but just governance.
Most of you know him, Mayor. Was we an attorney from?
Well, we had an
Attorney from
but
MASC,
we also
maybe?
had MASC. We usually
Right.
Yeah, at the, well,
had, used to had, what's the guy's name that was our,
Patrick Barrow.
Barrett
Yeah.
used to do it. Yeah. It was very helpful,
I
particularly
found
for
it
new
very
council
helpful
members.
because we did that the first year I got it.
Yeah.
It was at this meeting, but the retreat was elsewhere, yeah.
But that was more around Robert's Rules of Order.
Robert's
that
Rules of
sort
Order.
thing, you know.
We're
versus-
combined.
I think where Bev's going is more encompassing our current code of conduct that we voluntarily sign off
Correct.
Right.
and maybe enriching that in some way or expanding it to cover more
And
areas.
developing a procedure and process so that
Which we never
for
had.
complaints and, yeah, and just,
We had a voluntary document that you know, some of us signed, maybe some didn't. I don't know. It was all, who knows who signed and who didn't. But there was really nothing behind that.
right. Yeah, I think it's
And we didn't do
just
it
a
on an
really good
annual
idea
basis.
for public
Yeah.
trust, for us to know what the
Accountability.
rules are,
Yeah.
accountability. Love it.
Okay, I'll throw another one out. Kind of tied into a bigger one, but basically a code review. And this would be probably going back to assigning sections of our code to each committee, subcommittee, just to do an overall review. Looking back, it was like in the 80s was the last time there was like a major kind of review update.
We did it in the 90s.
Yeah, it's
I
been,
was here, so
yeah.
wasn't 80s.
But that was just again, kind of an action maybe. And again, we'd be looking at our codes. The one that came to mind was like, our procurement code, just again, review it, make sure that we don't need to make changes to it. But just go through the entire code piece by piece, assign it out and make sure that, that somebody looks at it
I think
from a overall context.
So the process we did in the 90s is, I guess maybe it is a different thing, and they just called it a recodification
Right.
process. We hired a specialized legal firm, and a lot of what they were doing was checking references back and forth, improving wording, improving. So their entire goal was we're not gonna change any policy that you have, but we're just gonna ensure that it's not duplicative, that you don't have contradictory things, that you're not referencing sections that are not accurate. So it was maybe a little bit different from that it wasn't
Yeah.
reviewing the policy of, is this a good policy? So I don't know if that's two different things, that
It'd probably be
recodification. process.
done at the same time, but, again, just basically, again, signing out groups, take a section, go through it, and if there's highlight anything that might need to be changed to bubble back up.
How did that-
Hey,
When they did that in the past, how did that work with I'm assuming there are little things that can be changed without a full ordinance.
So they identified all of the issues and produced, I guess our code is about 300 pages, about a 300-page red line. And And a lot of it was just, I mean, a lot of it was very minor, like this reference needs to be changed to this section. This agency is no longer OCRM,
Right.
it's BCM. So, and it was just one code change, but it was 1,000
So
little
it was
changes
done all in one.
all at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, for
So it's
instance,
mostly
the-
things that were duplicative, like you were talking about,
or obsolete, like I know there's an environmental, we dealt with the lighting ordinance and there's, it talks about requirement to use a certain kind of light that they don't make anymore.
Yeah.
So a change like that could be done.
Well, they did them all at once.
Today, it's a very easy exercise using AI. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it
You
is.
put your whole code into artificial intelligence and ask it to look for certain things, and it'll highlight it all for you.
I'll spend all the legal fees.
I'm gonna try to do that tonight.
By tomorrow, you can have it
Be
updated.
surprised.
Yeah.
We have a lot of areas though that are obsolete. They're contradictory. We found a couple of them, Douglas.
I was
Remember
gonna say, I
when
feel
this whole
like every time we
committee,
look at it,
how committees are
Yes.
that
Yeah.
are contradictory to one another.
Yeah, I found one on admin committee. That's a, the explanation of the job. There were
So it
two
definitely
code
needs,
sections that were
it definitely needs to be looked at, kind of redone.
probably-
We're gonna assign that to
probably not-
admin?
Probably not gonna be
Sure.
done tonight, but what is the realistic timeline for that?
Well, we did stop. I think
1 year.
my
was gonna
list,
say,
Well, I
you're-
kind of
yeah.
put those together.
That's a couple of years out.
How about, I'll throw one out. We've talked about this in the past, and I think we're going to get to the discussions about our revenues and such. I'd like to see us start an initiative where we can use our 30% money for tourism as we see fit. So, I think I've been pretty vocal about my opinion that for us, with our size of budget, with the demands for beach, for infrastructure, for retention and compensation, we don't have out of the 14 points of the A-tax money that we get to keep, you take the point aside that goes to the beach committee or that goes to the beach fund, we get about 2.5 points for discretionary spending out of 14 points of A-tax money that we collect. So the myth that, that all this A-tax money is flying around, it is good and it's a great revenue stream, but the municipality here keeps maybe 2.5 out of the 14 points. So what I'd like to see is us, it's going to take a legislative move or it's going to take something, but I think we ought to take that a run at, and maybe we can lock arms with some other municipalities. I'm not saying that we don't do anything for promotion, but I think that the municipalities should have the discretion to be able to spend that money on tourism however they see fit. That 30% legislation was put in place 30 years ago when it made perfect sense and that there was a drive to drive tourism to the state of South Carolina. But our dollar contribution has gone from less than $100,000 per year to now $1.2 million. We're approaching $1.2 million per year out of our coffers that come into our coffers. We actually write checks quarterly to the promotional organization. And like I said, I'm not saying we bring it to zero, but I think that having the municipalities have the discretion to spend and invest in that or invest in things at home is something that we should pursue aggressively. It may take years, but if we don't get started, future councils, the last 4 years, we spent $4 million for promotion. We're now looking for money how to fund our beach renourishment, our waterway project, and to make payroll enhancements so that we can retain and attract personnel. That $1.1 million per year can make a huge difference for this municipality, and I think we ought to pursue it aggressively.
Is that a new initiative
It's
or
a
is that a
legislative
legislative
move.
opportunity?
It's initiative to change the legislation.
I mean, we're dictated by state law to take 30% and give it to a tourism entity. So that has to be something, that's not anything we can change on our own.
Well, we can start it. We can draft legislation. It's a 2-page change. We can help get our lobbyists engaged. but somebody's got to start the push, and I think it could start right here at home.
You're saying draft the state law.
We could do
and
that.
then get a sponsor to carry it forward to the legislative assembly.
I think we could easily do that.
Now, to your point, Rusty, that's a legislative opportunity in addition to initiative if you want it to be.
Well, maybe it's a resolution on the top, on the part of the council to jumpstart it, just so that it's clear that the council has voted on it or not, whatever. To put it
I think
forward.
one thing's for
I think-
sure, if you don't ask, they're not going to volunteer
Right.
to give it to us.
And we may get no for a couple of years, but I think if we can get others aligned on this and start recruiting, the other municipalities that are spending millions of dollars on promotion, that we may no longer, maybe we need half of that. But we've gone from 500,000 just a few years ago to 1.1, heading towards 1.2 million in just a few years. And that money could be, I think, better spent at home.
I guess my question on that, I agree, no, completely agree. But is again, what can we do as a council? Like you said, is that something that we should do a resolution? Do we need to assign people to anything? How do you move forward, or how?
I'll take it we can take it maybe to the admin committee to draft something up in a resolution that goes along with it and bring it to council, bring it to workshop, and go that way. We'll take that one on.
Okay.
Talk to our lobbyists.
I mean, you've already given the lobbyists some direction, not
Yeah, and I know the
Complete
municipal
control, but, yeah.
associations pushing for this. But again, it was kind of like, what do we need to do? Or actions do we need?
We're also trying to get other municipalities on board with us. I mean, I think we need a louder voice if we can get, try to get other municipalities to join in.
That'd be great.
notes on initiatives. If we can maybe wrap this one here in a few minutes. Other items?
David, we're gonna revisit the beach committee recommendations at some point?
Yeah, we haven't had our meeting, I guess.
I was gonna
but-
say, let's
but-
let them have one meeting maybe.
I'll share my bit,
Wow.
kind of where I see what standing is. Look at the report of the alternatives and that is under work. It's been awarded.
No,
no,
we're getting two proposals back for consideration at your
Yeah. So to
29th.
me, there's kind of two issues to address. Is one is what kind of budget do we have, which I know we've already discussed that, is how much do we have that we can spend? And then what are our alternatives that fit into that budget? And until we get those recommendations of the alternatives and the pros and cons and all, I kind of see where we're progressing, but that's where we stand.
Is that a question?
No, that's kind of, well, is anybody else have a kind of a different or more input to that?
And you're speaking to the cost of the actual alternatives, correct? Not of the proposals that we're about to receive.
Right. Yeah, that's what we'll see in this first action is to have somebody put together the cost of all the alternatives.
Right. Well, so step one will be we're going to get two proposals, but neither of those proposals are going to have cost of improvements. They're going to be proposals for the cost of the
evaluate.
service to evaluate.
Right.
And council will, I'm guessing, either engage one or both of those firms to create that list of alternatives. They'll give you cost estimates, pros and cons of each. And then at that point, I think council's going to have a decision to make terms of which of these do you want to pursue, which
Right.
do you not?
Yeah, but
So
there's a
that's-
whole list of beach recommendations that the first beach committee came forward with. I think still needs council action on some of them. And that's something I think that we need to address somehow.
Yeah, and I see that's what on the plate for the beach committee right now. Well, you're saying from the recommendations,
They made a list of recommendations.
The first ad hoc committee.
The first ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
And somehow we need to, there's some, and there's unaddressed recommendations in there that we need to go back and address.
And to me, a big portion of that was basically figuring out what is the budget that we're working with.
No, some of those I think are not, but have any budget to them at all. It's policy.
Oh, okay, yes.
Well,
Would that be a workshop then? Is that?
Well, I guess my thought was there's another matrix of these recommendations, their status, and this permanent beach committee has been formulated. My thought was that would be kind of their first, one of the first things that they look at would be the remaining items on that list for recommendations to you all. But it could go straight to workshop or could go either way.
That's a tough one because the ad hoc committee did some, in my opinion, really good work and made those recommendations. And, it might be a good opportunity for council to say yay or nay. And on the yays, then if we need more work on it or whatever, or we vote on it. I don't know. I think we need to respect the work of the ad hoc committee and the recommendations that they made and not start changing them or decide which ones we're going to adopt. Especially since, the beach is such a volatile and imminent threat, in my opinion.
Yeah, looks like there's 26 or so recommendations. Still 1, 2, 3, 4,
I say quite a number has been.
five specifically need council direction.
Maybe at the next workshop, just hand out that recommendation list and then we can decide, we can just go through it
Go
quickly.
through.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ready to shift gears just a little bit. So let's think about threats. Think about threats to our revenue and just city in general. See some of them listed on the screen here, just a thought starter.
Bill, I'm sorry, before we jump into that, so what's going to come of the output? Or are you going to publish I'm looking at Sean, are you going to publish a draft of the captured items and how's this going to work from here so that we can all kind of make sure we're all on the same page on what we had captured and where does it link into the strategic plan and what the time frame is? And I mean,
Well, I think you've got captured and where and next step. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got committee or council or workshop or.
Yeah, so I have currently 20, and I don't know if I can't see, but
Mine's by each agenda topic, but it's just my best shorthand capturing everything. So this is the last one minus the beach initiative comment you just made.
yeah, so we'll have about minus 20. Sean might have 21, 22, but we will summarize the topic, and I think I have a committee or a placeholder for where it would go next. I have time frames for a handful of them, not most of them, but we'll add that to it and then distribute that out.
and I'm just kind of envisioning this will be sort of our tracking document for the year as to, hey, how are we doing if we need to move something, but these are and again, if these initiatives go forward, then at least we've got a 2-page document that we can track to that says, hey, we're on track or we're off track.
All right, Sean, take us back if you don't mind. Any specific conversation you want to have around threats or concerns?
You talking about on the revenues, Phil?
Revenue, expenses, project, operations. I mean, again, you see some of the self starters up on the
Oh, question.
screen, Sean, if we can clear that. Oh, you got it. Yep.
Just a big picture revenue question. With everything that's going on in the world, and especially the country today, I keep reading up because it's part of my business to know about tourism revenues. Do we expect any reduction in revenues because of the overall global situation where tourism from foreign countries some people are saying are down significantly because of a lot of different reasons? Do we have any concerns about that on the local level? Actually,
Concerns about revenue for sure. But,
yeah, revenue.
but I mean, you look at, I've read something recently about was it Fernandino or Amelia Island, that their revenue's down, just tourism revenue's down. I mean, our community has been very resilient, but it does keep me up nights.
We going to stay that way? Resilient?
Well, who knows? I mean, I asked the same question too, and it's like, Philip just touched on it too, like, Fernandina Beach or whatever, they're kind of like, they've got the beach and they've got some shops and all that, but they don't have the same kind of draw that we have in the low country area. We have the city of Charleston, we have
Right.
plantations, we have
They're more
all these,
isolated.
all these other amenities and things that you can do and visit. So we have a little better situation in that we have more of an international draw. But I think the question you were asking too is, with some of the global threats, politically or otherwise, are people going to be traveling the same way they were before? And I don't know.
Actually, what do you see in your bookings?
I mean, nothing's the same since COVID. So, I mean, and it hasn't gone back to normal like pre-COVID.
Really,
Since
you
then,
consider it
so-
to continue in the 26th? Same?
I mean, based on, like, I would say 2025 was relatively the same as 2024, but, so it hasn't been a drop off from those years, but I know it's hard to say, but I mean, some months were significantly better or worse. I mean, it's been very variable,
Yeah.
very up and down, very hard to predict, I would say, in my opinion, though.
A lot of
Yeah.
last minute bookings.
Lots of
What are
last
your-
minute bookings.
What are your thoughts, if anything?
I'm just looking at our each of our lines for our tourism sales tax revenues, and they've been staying pretty tightly gathered. 25 was down in May, up in June. So it's obviously hard to tell. We will clearly plug in an assumption when we build our budget, and I think it's usually an assumption of growing by 1%. And we'll need to vet that out and talk through that and get feedback on whether that's a good, safe assumption. But that will be kind of our first step in setting a
I
budget for
think
the
last
next year.
year we forecasted down 3%.
Yeah.
We were down,
That's another
the
thing.
budget was down 3%.
Yeah.
Another reason for the finance.
Yeah.
A couple other things to
Start
look
to look
at
at
too is,
forecasting
I'm
and-
sorry, Kate. Yeah. But, you look at Charleston International Airport is now truly becoming an international airport. So you have a lot of direct flights from a lot of different places now, domestic flights in a lot of cases. So you're bringing in tourists now from around the country that can fly in, so Seattle to Charleston or whatever, Charleston to Boston, Bermuda. I mean, you've got all these direct flights. That's probably helping some too. But the other thing that's driving it even more is not the number of people we're having coming in, but what they're spending when they get here. And that's where we go back to what I was referencing earlier, the ADR, the average daily spend or revenue that we're getting from the people who are visiting here is increasing. So even if you have less traffic, less people, they're spending more.
You said it's about 1,000, is that per person?
Per night.
Yeah,
Per
well,
night.
per night. You know, I mean, we're heads above everybody. I mean, Charleston's not even close. Closest one to us is probably Kiowa, and it's a small number compared to ours.
But if we look at our revenue stream compared to just this last fiscal year, we've got, I think we've got, first of all, our expenses are continuing to escalate. But we had some one-time items and some other things that are going to not just impact us in the next fiscal year, but going forward. So for example, we lost, I'm just throwing a few out here. We lost something like 75 grand in business licensing, or I'm sorry, rental licensing, because people were consolidating at a location, and that's a downward pressure. We saw we're going to be spending tens of millions of dollars out of our funds for the beach renourishment, which is going to take our cash on hand down, which we've got a double pressure down. Interest rates are declining, but we could see our interest income that we've had enjoyed in prior years here dry up by at least half, if not more, if interest rates continue to plummet down. We had a one-time, I don't know how many hundreds, thousands, or $500,000 building permit for a special project that was done, I think, with the Ocean Club redevelopment. That's not going to reappear. So, you know, if you just start adding these up, we might have a couple $1 million of potential downward pressure from prior years, and at the same time, our expenses are increasing. You know, we got a $12 million payroll payroll cost, that's cost of the city, that's going to keep continuing to go up. And we need to figure out a way how to fund that plus the retention. We've got our capital projects that are, you know, running a little hot over budget. So I think we've got, when you talk about threats, I think we've got the downward pressure on the revenue going forward compared to the prior year. Plus we've got the upward pressure on both CapEx and OpEx. And
As far as going forward with the capital project, is there anything that's on the drawing board that we're not budgeted for right now? Or can we see the end of it, the major projects?
Well, so we have always, and this will again be part of this upcoming budget process, but we try to kind of have a major project happening each year and then a major project planning each year. So this would be the time that in this budget, we would identify and fund the design of the next major project. So yeah, there are more things on the horizon that, you know, we would expect, and this obviously could be interrupted if the revenue is not there to do it. But we would expect to kind of each year chip off another major drainage project or infrastructure project. The ones that are on our, you know, that are in our workflow now, we have a budget identified for them, and we're accounting for them in our forecast, our budget forecast. But there are future projects that will be vetted through this group and decided on whether or not to start that design.
what did our lobbyists also say about the prognosis for future grants? Things that's for these kinds of projects that's drying up.
I mean, I do think that the surplus has a lot of expectation that it's going to be a good year this coming year. And I know the governor's budget came out, and I hear that there wasn't as much in the beach line item as we had hoped, or
in the what?
But in the beach.
No, what did it end up being?
I think it was 4 million.
4 million.
That's what the governor.
Yeah,
120 some
So
miles.
he did 7 2 years ago and ended up 0. 5 last year, ended up 1.5, and this is 4 now. Okay, for all of South Carolina. Wow.
I think if you're asking for threats, to me, one of them is regulatory.
Yeah.
I can't.
We just heard,
John.
we just heard that, potential one with the fish and wildlife, but could be others. I think the economy is always a potential risk, but I don't. It seems to be streamlining right now, and part of this unrest outside the U.S. There for a while after COVID. I think a lot of visitors started going ex-U.S. for vacations, and I think there's a potential for that to reverse back now, and people stay home based on a lot of stuff going on everywhere else. So I'm not really that worried about it, although that's always a risk. I think the thing that could be a risk to us is always a storm, but I'm not talking about a major storm potentially setting us back financially on the way our current beach is. If we have just another nor'easter or something like that, potentially on the danger spots that we're going to be forced to do something. So that's, I think, a threat to us, is try to expedite the renourishment and get some of these solutions in place to reduce that risk. Or the longer it goes, the higher the risk, obviously, that something happens.
I guess you could say, John, it's not if, it's when.
Yeah. Yep.
We know that's coming.
Well, it's almost more of a risk now because if it's not a named storm, we don't get,
Right.
help from the state and federal. And, I mean, to me, that's the scariest thing almost, is to get something that causes major damage and we don't have anybody to help us out. Which I guess that goes into the legislative side of things. Maybe there needs to be change there.
I don't think we're going to get any legislative.
I don't think we're
movement,
ever going to get anything from the
before we
state.
have another problem. So we better plan on going it alone.
Yep.
Mayor, what do you see as threats? I
Well,
have some thoughts, right?
yeah, I mean, my revenue keeps me up every day, quite honestly. I mean, you just, to Ashley's point around COVID, during COVID, people were driving. So, I mean, our revenue took an uptick and it was great. Things loosened up. Then people started traveling internationally and cruising again, and our revenue kind of flattened out for a year or two. So, I mean, that I'm like, John, I don't have great concern around economic downturn, but it's always there. I mean, for sure, to me. And then you got, the whole political unrest is, who knows where that's going. If we can shift gears into this legislative, I think there are some opportunities. We've talked about some of those already, whether it's ATAX or continuing to beat on our legislators for revenue flexibility. We've got every lever turned on right now for revenue that they allow us to turn on. It'd be nice to be a Hilton Head and have another 1% on ATAX. It'd be nice to have the real estate transfer fee. It'd be, there are things that, man, if you just get people to, if you're not going to fund us, that's one decision point in Columbia. But at least give us the funding flexibility to do something.
Get out of our way.
Yeah. Don't do both.
Do no harm.
And you've got OCRM or BCM's hands completely tied on, you can do sandbagged or scraping. I mean, it's like we're locked down in every possible way right now. And that's just not right. And we need to, and we just started our federal lobbyist conversations last year. We, 4 years into our state lobbyists, somewhere in there. And that's been fruitful. But last year, Scott, to your question, there were no earmarks. Grants were, hit or miss. We've had great success 4 years with the numbers, but last year was, next to nothing. We hope we're going to get this $1.5 million on the beach number. It's just that keeps me up. I mean, we need help. I mean, these are state beaches and state assets, and it's just ludicrous to think our $32 million budget has to fund a $30 million project every 6, 7, 8 years, pick a number. And, it doesn't happen quick, unfortunately, and we just have to keep beating that drum hard. And I think we really have to leverage the beach advocates group to get that unified, bigger voice than just little IOP out here screaming from the mountaintop. I mean, I think we need more people in here with us, and they're willing. I just think we need to. It's just a concerted effort to spend time on it.
You have any thoughts about talking to Hilton Head and how they got it pushed through?
Well, it was all in the 90s before
Just predate.
it was predates ordinances.
They did it. The state legislature then passed a law that made it so that others couldn't do it.
So
So
they were grandfathered.
they just got ahead
They're
of it.
grandfathered in.
Well,
Okay.
comes back to, so again, correct me if I'm wrong, just the accommodations tax, you can tax up to 3%. Here, our county, because Charleston County takes 2%, they got grandfathered in that we can only get one, where in Hilton Head, the county is 1.5, so the city can actually take the other half. And again, goes back to, can we lobby legislation to try to get that changed to reduce, to end the grandfather clause, so that, you know, again, I don't know if there's any hope in that, but that's kind of where I was seeing it, is we're stuck because Charleston County's taking a bigger share than what's currently allowed by state.
Well, and I think, David, to your comment, you know, we have the state lobbyists, just started the federal lobbyists last year. You know, we haven't spent a lot of time at the county, you know, looking for some more collaboration or more effort there. And, you know, I mean, I think that's a definitely opportunity for sure at the county level. You know, will something happen? Who knows? But it has not been, the effort has not necessarily been there at the county level the last few years for sure. Been more focused at a state level. Excuse me.
Excuse me, I just had a question. You thought about inviting Larry Kabrowski over here to talk to us and meet with us in a work session?
If I could get a returned email, that would be a start.
Okay.
How
See
about
what I'll see what I can do.
Well, I think we could get him over here, but what would he tell us?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
like,
you know, we just put
I mean,
pressure
he's the
on him,
vice chair.
Start the
again on-
conversation,
on-
yeah.
On the council, but,
but he's our representative.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's the start of a conversation for sure.
I mean, I agree. I think
Definitely.
county level, we certainly have a big opportunity. We have an opportunity there, but it seems to me the elephant in the room for us basically is that we don't have any real legislative support from the Midlands through the upstate to help us do anything with our beaches.
And that's where the
They
power
like,
is.
they like to vacation here, but they don't like to
Right.
think about giving us money to keep these beaches.
It's always been that way.
Well, not
Brave
always.
boy.
Back when we had,
Yeah.
back when we had some
Low
control, low country control before it dissolved.
Yeah,
We had.
I remember. Yeah.
But all that went away through,
Now it's controlled by upstate.
got out of control quickly.
You know, and Jimmy, to your,
Real estate transfer tax is what Hilton Head has, and
Yeah.
that's controlled by the real estate lobby, which isn't gonna,
Wild Dunes has that, right?
Yeah.
but the real estate lobbyists won't give a dime of their commission, so that's what we're up against
that's
on
an
that one.
uphill. And Jimmy, to your question, I mean, I've had conversations with Herb Sass, previous chair, Middleton, the previous chair, Jenny Honeycutt, who I think is running for
District
Congress.
one.
Congress now. So I mean, that's tried to nibble around the edges with county. But I think to your point, I think we have to leverage Larry he's our representative and he needs to
No promises. I'll
equipped
do what I
with
can do.
be equipped with the information. What else legislatively? I know, Scott, you'd already brought something up around the A-tax, and we've got that captured, I think, in both places.
It's too early to tell on the Fed level though, right? We just put that in place. We really don't have the
Yeah.
eyes and ears of a Lindsey Graham or
Yeah,
Tim Scott or
I would
any of them at
say
this
that
point.
our federal lobbyists have talked and, you know, we've given them all of our documents. They've kind of been familiarizing themselves with our needs. I do think they've developed and kind of met with me on a conceptual idea of becoming similar to the city of Charleston in that all of their water needs, and that's sewer, potable water, stormwater, drainage has been wrapped up into one federal project. And it's been approved at the federal level. And then they are, and there's a massive price tag to all of those improvements. and they get drawdowns, and it's each year based on the budget that's approved that year. So they've kind of identified that City of Charleston model as being a good model for this, that would work for the city for all of our needs. But that needs to be, that's a process and a project that we haven't even embarked upon. So I do think that's something that needs to be vetted and put into motion this year if we're gonna go down that path.
And maybe this is a task for the new finance committee if it gets approved. If you think of the amount of tax that gets generated off of the Isle of Palms, whether, I've been saying we generate about $550 million of revenue between the businesses and the short-term rentals based on the licenses that are submitted. I think the breakout there is about 150 for the short-term rental and another 400 million for all the other businesses that report on this island. So if you take income tax, tax, hospitality tax, sales tax, all the other taxes that are being generated off of this island, and then you bounce it up against what we're getting back in return, I can assure you that we're getting a small fraction of the contributions. And I'm talking at the state level, but also, at the federal level. We do not, aside from tax rebates, and I think some sales tax, even on our property tax bills, I know on the resident side, I think about 20% of my tax bill stays here on the island and the rest of it's going someplace else. So maybe we can put a little business case together that shows just how much we're contributing and try to get some of our lobbyists some information about can we get some of this money back.
That's the hard part. Nobody wants to give up.
I know that. No, I know. We're giving we're certainly doing our contribution. I'm looking at anything that can help us tell the story about how much we're contributing versus how much we're being starved.
Douglas, if I remember correctly, when we hired the federal lobbyist, I believe they gave us indication that it's going to take a couple of years to really get some results, right?
They did, yes.
We're only a year into it.
That's correct.
On what issue? Initiative change?
Federal lobby.
Oh, the federal. Okay.
Yeah,
Really just a few months, not even.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say they were
said 2 years, right?
Yeah, but it's not even been a year.
very effective in extending the deadline for that. I mean, we have this $1 million grant. We were up against and I was very impressed with how quickly they came to help and how effective they were. So it's been a good experience. It just hasn't had, the big payoffs like the state lobbyists were able to have in their first few years. Some, I will say for the threats and the legislative opportunities, I have lists. I think we have lists. I don't know that we really have, we've identified that. I don't know if we have any next steps. I don't have for really either of those. And I don't know that there is much to do. Threats, I have generically kind of revenue threats, interest rates down, one-time events, payroll up, capital project costs up. We have regulatory threats. We have economic threats. We have storms. Don't know that there's much we can do other than just be aware of what's out there. Legislative opportunities I have, we've talked about and we talked earlier about gaining control of that 30% of tax money, of some type of unlatching of the Hilton Head model of taxing, getting the county on board with us. And maybe that one I think there is a next step of trying to get our representative to engage with us at some point.
Well, Douglas, isn't a way to summarize this is that we've got revenue pressures downward while we've got spending trends upward on all fronts. That's not a sustainable model, and we've got to address it during the budget cycle. I mean, I think Deborah's told me that a few times now.
And any other any kind of next steps on those? I think we've identified them. record them, but I don't know if there's much else for us to do there.
Well, all that ties into step number 7, doesn't it?
So let's take we'll take a dive on beach funding. So a lot of conversation, $30+ million projects coming with a whole lot of assumptions.
Back one.
So Douglas, Deborah, Sean, whoever wants to kind of walk us through.
Yeah, we
have a quick request.
Go ahead.
In the future, can we have this stuff sent out to us ahead of time so we're not looking at it for the first time?
Well, and we can definitely put it online and send it to you. So the intent here was to just go through an exercise of giving you, and some of all of these are estimates at best. This first slide, and the takeaway from that first slide is that we believe that total project for the beach restoration work, we're looking at a $32 million project. That pie chart is just breaking it down geographically by the amount of sand. It's not, we've talked about a break in, sharing of expenses between Wild Dunes, and this is not that. This is just saying that 68% of the sand of this project is going to go to the north end, is planned to go to the north end, and 32% of the sand is planned to go on the south end. That $32 million figure is made up by taking the cubic yardage of sand and using a calculator of $15 per cubic yard. We then add $5 million to that number for mobilization, and we add just under $1 million of soft costs of engineering and general soft costs. So that's all to say. It's a very expensive project, and it's happening on two ends of our own. Any questions about any of those?
And Douglas, is the 15 per cubic yard, that's kind of just where things are right now, or best guess?
Yeah, I would
we
say
got a lot of assumptions.
Yeah,
here.
we have been bouncing that number around. It started at 1250. I think our initial forecast had it at 1250. I think Stephen has subsequently said it should be at $15. He's kind of constantly in communication with the dredgers. They're familiar with this project. They've assured him that that's a good budgeting number. We have talked about potentially saving on mobilization, so saving on the $5 million by taking advantage of proximity of dredgers. So that's kind of part of this accelerating the project could account for a savings. But then, last night we have a meeting with the Fish and Wildlife folks that are telling us that there might be an additional mobilization in there that's necessary to comply with the regulatory.
Douglas, can we add one more line item to the next round of the schedule? We talked earlier, and I think we're going to do this going forward, add all the soft costs in here, because that's probably another.
So that is in that number.
That is in the number.
That's in the 32. I think that has about $1 million of soft costs. So it's $15 per cubic yard plus $5 million plus about $1 million.
And Douglas, is the 1,000,007 cubic yards, again, is that worst case considering the shoal and the Army Corps sand, or is that
that
really
is
what we think we're going to need
that's
based
what we
on
think.
erosion rates and everything else?
Yes, that's what we are planning to do. I think our permit application would allow us to do more, but Stephen has told us that is a good number that he expects that we will actually place. We could place more.
Based on permit.
Yes, based on the permit, if we chose to.
That was for $2.5 million.
Correct. The permit request total was over $2 million. All right, next one, Sean. All right, then it only gets more complex from here.
Great.
So, and this is again, these only one number on this graph do we know. All the rest are guesses. And the one that we know is the available beach preservation fund at 9 million. What this is doing is it is taking an assumption of what the Wild Dunes Community Association could contribute, and that is based on discussions about the amount of ATAX revenue generated within Wild Dunes. That breakdown is, as of the most recent data, they generated 47% of the revenue that goes into our ATAX funds. So this is providing a breakdown of them providing 53% of the revenue for the northern part of the project, and that's the $12 million number for Wild Dunes Community Association. There is also shown on this graph $1.5 million of grants from the PRT. We've made that request. I think we feel positive about that $1.5 million, but we haven't been told that we've been awarded that number. And then we have the $9 million that is going to be or is available to us with the Beach Preservation Fund. All of that adds up to leaving a $10 million gap. So that is the kind of takeaway from this slide, is that money on hand, money that we're expecting roughly from Wild Dunes to contribute, and grants still leaves a gap of $10 million. Questions on that one?
In the past few years, we've had what they call a net positive result, where some of it went to general fund, some of it went to capital projects, a little bit of it went to disaster recovery. Is it too early to talk about forecasting for this year about if there is any net positive result? How much would that be? And could it go to this?
Well, we are going to have, we're going to have a slide.
Really, I'm just asking.
Yeah, we are going to have a slide that talks about kind of the problems going forward that this creates. So we'll get to that. And
Okay.
Internally, we've talked about that kind of that net positive result, how we've used it historically, and maybe we want to shift how we've been using that. I do think we don't know what that will be this year. We won't know. Yeah.
But the disaster recovery fund, that's around 3 million, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, those are discretionary funds.
Correct.
I mean, I'm not advocating for this, but that is available. It could be.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that would chop it from 10 to 7.
Well, go to the next slide and we'll talk. We're going to get into a little bit of how we could divvy up the $10 million. This is really the same information, just put in kind of text form, but it does also show to new pieces of information on this slide are the to Scott's point earlier, we are losing. We do expect that going forward, we're going to lose about $800,000 per year in revenue that we're not going to get from having that money in the bank. The rest of those, so the top slide is really that first pie chart of where the sand is going. The bottom part of that, the funding sources, is the second slide that shows 12 million roughly from the Wild Dunes Community Association, $1.5 million in grants, 8.6 from our beach preservation fee fund, leaving that $10 million gap again. So next slide. So this is one method that we could get the $10 million. So this is, and again, we could do this any number of different ways. This is our attempt at coming up with a one method to do it. And it would take $750,000 from the hospitality tax fund, 5.2 million from Muni A tax fund, 4.5 million from state A tax fund. And that would total the 10.5.
And what would that be taking from?
So and I think the next slide gets to their current balances. Yes. So this is bottom left. That's the Muni and state aid tax in one slide, and we do break that slide out in the next slide. But this slide is showing the two big orange spikes on the tourism funds and the beach preservation fee funds. So that's showing the total money out for the beach. It then is showing, well, and then we start to get deep into the weeds here, but it shows
Expenditures.
yes, the lines are expenditures, the bars are fund balances. So you can see if you just look at the tourism funds, they have been building over time. And then there's a large orange spike, which is expenses out. And then you have the green line, which is revenues in.
It looks like, Douglas, if I'm reading that right, it's taken the 10 million out of the tourism fund. It's just from roughly 13 million down to 3 or something around there like that.
That's correct. It's a combination of muni, state, and hospitality. So the gap is coming out of the tourism fund graph. Almost, not almost all of the beach preservation fund is coming out. So those bottom two graphs are taking out the $19 million.
Well, didn't we in the beach preservation ad hoc committee, I think we suggested keeping 2 million as a fund balance, and that's what that's doing, right? In that budget 26
Yes,
year,
that's
keeping a
got
$2 million balance. Rough.
Yeah,
Roughly.
roughly 2 million.
Sorry,
balance.
John.
I was saying that it's certainly a way to fund this project. But my opinion, it certainly is not a sustainable model for continued beach restoration going forward. I mean, you can't.
6 years.
Yeah,
Well, and
even every 8 years or 10 years, it's not a sustainable model. And the absence of any kind of help anywhere, we can't do it.
So this is really the net result, John, of what you're describing is this fund has historically grown much quicker than this. But under this model, what's happening is we're taking a larger chunk of the funds that used to go to the general fund are now going into the beach preservation fee fund in the future years. So that's having less transfers in, which is having less transfers over, which is resulting in less capital projects funding over time.
Start all of our other projects.
That's correct. So I think this has us in 31 getting back to about $20 million in these two funds, but it's happened at the expense of the capital projects. So if something, this is all, based on the 8-year cadence, based on doing a big project. I would say it's a conservative approach of what, if the beach ends up needing as much funding as we think it might need, this is the net result without additional revenues.
Are you building in inflation? And if so, what percent?
At 3%.
3% annually?
Deborah, I'm gonna let you come on. That
Yes,
ends about my level of being able to.
We are building in inflation on these charts. And remember, for those that are new, that the only way the capital fund is funded is through the general fund. And the majority of that excess does come from these tourism funds. So if we stop contributing as much to the general fund, then we're anticipating that the general fund, of course, some will still have to be transferred in, but we're saying that the general fund has to come to a point where it has to sustain itself with little transfers, minimum transfers. And then we're saying that only about 250,000 a year will go to the capital fund because we want to continue to put something in there, but it will not be nearly as much as we've done in previous years.
Because our overages have been 2 to 2.5 million.
That's correct.
Some of that's gone disaster, some of that's gone capital improvements.
A lot of it goes capital project.
Yeah.
Right. So the only other way that fund is funded is through grants. If we get grants for purchases or of vehicles or any kind of infrastructure. Otherwise, it has to come from the general fund.
Well, looking ahead, Douglas, to like 31 and around there, is this too early to start a conversation about groins?
No, it's not. And I think, and this I guess is what we would want to do is after we've had the experts tell us the cost benefit analysis of those groins, we would want to take that. And I do think, Deborah, we did hold some money
Out of the capital
out of
fund,
the capital fund to fund, maybe it was, how many $1 million worth of improvements?
for
Was
the
it?
growing,
Yeah,
4 million.
yeah. So we have included 4 million in for improvements, and we would obviously only do that if we knew there would be kind of a return on that investment. But we don't know what that is. So that would have a change on the frequency, the cadence of that. We think we're going to be doing these projects every 8 years. If groins were installed and they were successful, the goal of that would be to draw that period between renourishments out to some farther number. We don't know that
Right.
now, but
Could be as high as 12 or more.
I don't know. I mean, that's all to be determined, but that would be, I think that would, if we could go 10 or 12 years, if we could install groins, we could go to 10 or 12 years. I think it then becomes a much more plausible, we probably could manage at that. There are some point at which we wouldn't have to raise revenues, but as it stands now, you can see the capital projects fund just doesn't sustain over time.
Well, I moved here January 18th, 1986, 2:00. I remember because I was so glad to be
Is that
here.
PM or AM?
PM.
Don't ask too many questions.
They're trying to lighten it up a little bit. This is a hell of a way to end this discussion. But when I first moved here, and I felt very fortunate to be here, at 42nd Avenue, there was groins that were over 6 feet high. And those rocks have not disappeared. They're underneath sand.
Mhm.
And they went all the way, I understand, to 57th Avenue.
They're there.
Okay.
Is that right, Rusty? You've been here longer than me.
Perpendicular to.
Perpendicular to the beach.
Yeah.
I get one potential option here on this funding is to take debt on, right?
Yes,
And
that's correct.
I think that doesn't lessen the amount you pay, in fact, it increases it, but it does a couple things, I think, for us, is that it allows time instead of coming out with all this cash to us for us to work the legislative side of it. I mean, at some point we need help and somebody's going to have to step up. And I think that, a sustainable model would be, if we plan on doing these every 8 years, you take it to do an 8-year bond for the amount that you need. And it's paid off by the time you need the next one.
Which is what Outer Banks does.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's an option.
It is. Yeah, we did have
and-
conversations
and
with Hilton Head.
And I just don't like drawing down our reserves by that much. I mean, if we have some kind of issue or crisis and our dry powder is gone.
But what's interesting, Douglas, and I totally agree with the unsustainability of this whole conversation. So if you go out to forecast fiscal 31, so that's 5 years out, right? Then we're saying 8 years is our target for, so at 5 years out, it looks like we're between beach preservation and tourism, we're roughly back to 20-ish million,
Yep.
right? So in another 3 years, when we would possibly have a project, we're probably somewhere in the 25, pick a number. I mean, but again, I know we've got inflation, so a $32 million project is going to be a $40 million project at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, the cost of these projects this project, we got 2 million $1.5 million cubic yards on the last project for about 13 million. We're getting
A little bit more.
about the same volume for twice. It's doubled in the same time. The demand for sand, unfortunately, is increasing quicker than the demand for groceries. And I think the other part of this equation is Wild Dunes is facing the same funding challenges, which is accounting for 40% of the cost. So
With a nice
even if
transfer fee.
and even if we solve, bottom line, we need help.
Yeah.
We can't do this alone.
But go ahead.
Well, we do have a couple more slides, and they got to, one of them is just the next one really just gives detail on the bottom left. So you can see that had muni tax, state tax, hospitality tax all grouped together. This is breaking those three out, but showing the same thing. Those three are getting hit along with beach preservation fee fund. So that's kind of a repeat, but more granular look at each of the three funds. You can see there, almost, we put hospitality tax in there, hospitality fund, but there really is almost no revenue in or out of that one. Very, very small amount. The next one, and this is going to be the lion's share, I think, of what we go to the next slide. Yes, this is to Scott's point. This is looking back the last two projects. You have
Look at Charleston County, 18, 26, nothing.
Yeah, that's all we had.
Larry needs to step up.
You do. Yeah, you got
Oh, yeah.
county,
Nothing.
state, FEMA.
You don't have to talk. You don't have to talk.
We don't have the volumes. I was thinking we had the volumes.
Oh, the number of sand.
Yeah.
Number of sand.
Is there one more?
No, I don't think it shows from previous years, the number of sand, the
I
amount of
was thinking
sand.
with that, no. Oh, we got that. Is that the last slide? Oh,
That one.
okay. This is the one that, so we talked about the Wild Dunes contribution being roughly $12 million. We have, and that is, I think that is scenario 5. I think. There are a lot of other ways that we could, that could be decided upon by council. That's not set. We've looked at, the kind of, to just run through these quickly, and I don't want to get too down on it because I think that this is work the Public Facilities Committee will do. But one of those scenarios was to just look at our historical split. That's been 20%. The city has paid 20% of the Wild Dune sand historically. So that's certainly a path that would have a much smaller contribution by the city. Another way that we've talked about doing this is the city funding 100% of what is classified as a public beach. So the public beach, according to the state's definition, goes up into the middle, right about Beechwood East, kind of the middle of Beechwood East. So this second, if you were to calculate the amount of sand based on public versus what the state deems as inaccessible, that would have the city paying for 16% of the portion inside Wild Dunes, and Wild Dunes paying the rest. So that has the contribution at about $5 million. Another way that we've looked at it is giving, dedicating towards the Wild Dunes portion of the project, all that is paid into the accommodations basically all that's paid into the beach preservation fund since the last project, since the creation of that beach preservation fund. So if you look at the amount that we've accumulated in that fund and you just give all that's been gained by Wild Dunes back to Wild Dunes, that yields about $5.5 million. So in other words, we've taken in $10 million total in beach preservation funds. If you were to say, okay, let's give back the 47% that was gained from Wild Dunes properties, that would yield this amount. Scenario 4, this is using that break of 4753 and just applying it to the total cost of the project in Wild Dunes. That's the one that we've kind of most frequently referenced. And then the third one is, the fifth one is not only the cost of the project, but then we were adding in all of the soft costs that really the city has incurred 100% of permitting. I don't think emergency work is in there, but monitoring, permitting, engineering, contract administration. So this number adds that in and then puts that towards or would call for Wild Dunes and sharing in those costs as well.
And that's what you used in the previous slides.
No, I'm sorry,
5.
5. Yes. Yes, this is 5 is the one that we kind of built the initial assumptions off of. That's a lot in a short amount of time, but all that to say, I mean, I think this is going to be at the forefront of what council's looking at and considering for the next 3 or 4 months at least.
So can we go back a couple of slides to the bar chart for a second? One more slide right there. So kind of back to John's point, to weigh taking debt and forecasting this out kind of to the next project, whatever we think interest rates are on the receiving side and the paying side. I mean, that would be some good analysis to take it out to 30, whatever, our next project to see where our fund balances would be. I mean, again, I know we're making huge assumptions on per cubic yard of sand, what it's going to cost in 8, 9 more years now. So, I mean, I think we would just need to do that to figure out taking on debt, not taking on debt, reducing fund balances, some combination thereof.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to hear that the town of Hilton Head is doing it that way, even though they're the community we think of as being so kind of flush with money. And they're probably doing about a third of their project. They're financing about a third, maybe a quarter. But we've talked to that lending. I think it was First Tryon who Hilton Head used, who we've used in the past. So we have their interest rates. And
Well, and we've got
Sometimes that's just smart though. It doesn't mean that you're not,
No,
you don't have cash.
during
You don't have
COVID
money.
was definitely a smart move.
Sometimes
Scott,
it's just
Yeah, no, go
a way
ahead.
to finance your balance sheet.
And I mean, to keep in mind too, we've got a piece of debt that's rolling off this month. It's not a huge piece, but it is a piece. And we've got another bigger chunk rolling off in 28. So, I mean, our debt level is getting ready to be pretty low, to your point.
I think I think we've got to look at that as an option for some of it. And I think the big difference between us and Hilton Head is, one, their beach renourishment fund are so much more robust than what we've got. And the financial institutions, what they did is, and I think when you were looking at it, they're doing, they have to do a revenue bond.
Right.
So when we do hitch our wagon to a debt on this one, we're going to either have to, have the mill rate adjusted or do some kind of a revenue. It's going to be a revenue bond for sure.
Well, it's going to take a little PR campaign to tell people we're borrowing money to buy sand. It's going to disappear.
You sound like the upstate senators now.
Well, then that's what's going to happen to it, right? I mean, I understand we got
That is
to look
why
at all
we have
options.
Start looking at ways to make it stay,
Right.
Well,
Well,
They're increased by the.
or at least stay longer.
stay longer.
Is it an option to increase our beach preservation fee from 1% to 2%? No,
That was the whole
Okay.
conversation earlier.
Oh, sorry.
Hilton Head has another percent.
I got you.
We can't.
It's an opportunity to lobby for it, but it's,
Wow.
I thought-
Not to rain on
Happy
anybody's
birthday.
parade.
Happy birthday to me. Good information to have.
It is good information. Thank you all.
Is it his birthday?
No, I'm just saying,
So this
this
is-
is like the end of the birthday party. Here's your cake.
Sorry, yes.
Douglas, to your
Yep.
point, is this on y'all's committee tomorrow? This is public services. Y'all been bouncing this around, right?
Yeah, I think we've got, I don't know what we've got on the agenda for the
Yes,
discussion.
an update.
Update on,
It's
okay.
coming tomorrow.
What a mess.
He is here, so we can ask him.
Brandon, to come
yeah, we've got it
He
on
may-
there.
We had an extra chair for you up here.
tomorrow. We don't need to talk about this
Yeah.
now, but tomorrow is becoming difficult for me.
Is it? Yeah, we tried to, well, we'll talk.
So anyway, this is going to the public services
Yes.
to come up to the council
Maybe
for a
right now, it's
recommendation at some point. Not the debt piece yet, really, just the
That's
split
correct.
piece.
That's correct. Yeah, and I would just say, kind of from driving our kind of workflow is we need to get to an MOU with the Wild Dunes Community Association. To write the MOU, we need this sharing agreement kind of framework agreed to by council. So that's really our focus, is getting an MOU underway with them, and we need this to finish that piece of work.
Not to end totally on a downer, but and not to pull a Jimmy Ward, 25 years ago, if you took these bar charts backwards, right?
Yeah.
If you took them left,
Uh-huh.
I mean, we have been in such a nice spot. Capital projects, tourism. I mean, we have just been in such a nice spot for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. John, kind of to your point, if we depleted, if we paid cash for everything coming up, you go back 5 or 10 years, we're still in significantly better shape than we were from a fund balance standpoint. And I know that's not so relevant necessarily, but I'm just saying, because everything is so expensive right now. It's been so nice to have this 40 and 50 and $55 million sitting in the bank and collecting that interest. And I think we've been good stewards, and we've been putting money back in the community too with projects. It's just so easy to lose sight and think about these last 5 or 6 years and being so flush with cash. It just hasn't always been that way.
No, it's not.
So it's not all down.
No.
What else is kind of final?
Isn't that enough?
Douglas and staff, thank you all and public services for pulling all that off. Scott, I know you spent some time on it too. So thank you.
A lot of fun.
Always is.
We could.
What else as we wrap up here?
I have a couple governance questions to ask. Only because I'm on a honeymoon here, so I figure I can ask them since I don't understand. Can you explain, or someone explain, especially for the committees, if you will, sunshine laws, how they apply to committee members? So I'll take admin committee because that's what now I'm on. So take Scott, Jimmy, and I, and we're out somewhere and we're all standing there talking.
Well,
Am I
even-
against
even less than
something?
that.
Am I?
Talking about the football game?
I don't.
Yeah,
Well,
even just two of
I'm
them.
not, even just two of us, even no one knows what we're talking about because we're just talking. Is it an optic that I got to worry about? Or is it,
Can I weigh in here? if I may?
Nobody wants to.
It's,
comment.
nobody wants to talk about it. I
It's
need
pretty
to
much,
know.
no, it's pretty much the honor system. You're not supposed to talk about city business.
All right.
But if you and I were out, I wouldn't go running out of the room just because you were there. It's pretty much,
Well, mine.
you know what I mean? It's not.
Give me a year.
But that's the way I've always conducted myself. I mean, I've been in a room before with 4 other council members. We didn't immediately disperse because somebody might think that we were doing something we shouldn't be doing, but you should not be talking about city business.
I get that.
What's more apt to happen is when you're out in the public and there's two or three of you together, someone, residents, whoever jokingly will say, "Oh, got a quorum here, huh?" They'll throw that out there in a joking manner, but it's kind of-
Well, I would always say, well, we were just getting ready to vote, but
But
We're just talking about
Do
you.
you see
Beverly,
what
to
I'm
your,
talking about?
to your
I mean,
point,
Is it just
It's-
related to, sorry.
it does become very challenging with subcommittees that
Correct.
are three people.
Yes.
So technically, to your point, any two members of that committee make a quorum, and you can't meet, you can't have discussions, you can't. But it's of the topics on that are in front of that committee. So two members of a subcommittee should not get together, discuss the business of that committee. That should all be done during the subcommittee meeting.
right. I
I
try
get-
not
I
to
get
do
that.
it. I mean, I don't say, Bev, let's go have coffee, I would never do that. Before committee selections were made, sure,
It's okay. Right.
but
And we
no.
do. Yeah.
But can you have coffee to discuss items that are coming up as a full council? I mean, it's not on your specific
I wouldn't.
committee agenda,
I wouldn't do it.
but even not,
It wouldn't be a quorum, but you probably
right, it's not
shouldn't
a
do it.
quorum.
Yeah.
That's why I was bringing up earlier. It's a good point you made, to bringing in somebody from municipal association at the first of every year and explain these guidelines to everybody on council, even the ones that have been here a while would need refreshing what.
And I'm familiar at the council level, but again, these committees are throwing me off, as when there's only three on a committee. And you've
Right,
got
just
three of us.
be careful. You're right.
Yeah. So actually,
Pass an
definitely
ethics
opposites.
ordinance that will cover us.
so to your question, you have two different issues here. One is an illegal meeting and a quorum. That's the two members of a three-person committee.
Right, right.
You're technically having an illegal meeting.
If you're talking about committee business.
That's
Committee
correct.
business.
Yeah, let's make sure we clarify that.
The issue of just two non-committee members talking about a subject, that is an issue of ex parte communication where you're having deliberations outside of the public view, which is also a problem. So that's a different problem. You're not having an illegal meeting, but you're having ex parte communications about an issue that should happen. The public should have the benefit, and the full council should have the benefit of that communications.
So when two legislators get together and start talking about an issue up in Columbia, that's a problem.
They're on the committee.
If they're not on a committee.
They are having communications that aren't.
As long as they're
Open
not
to-
on the same committee, though.
No,
Okay,
even
well,
you have
you
two
can't
different
have
things. You have an illegal meeting
can't have
issue, and then you have
conversation
ex parte
Jimmy
communication.
About anything council related, city related. Is that what you're saying, basically?
There should not be.
Training.
Yeah, there should
Let's
not
get the
be.
training in.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's two different issues: the illegal meeting issue, and then the kind of working things behind closed doors issue.
Well, what else are we going to talk about?
The weather.
The weather. We can only talk about the weather.
Yeah, you talk about me.
To me, it
This
has
is-
a lot more to do with how it happens. I mean, if you're at the
Well, it's the circumstance.
street fest and you happen to run into each other, you're going to talk. It'd be weird if you didn't. But having coffee or something like that, it's more organized, or that's the kind of stuff that you should
optically
avoid.
Optics
Yeah.
are not good.
Taking notes.
Yeah.
I noticed, can I go on?
Good.
Sorry. I noticed at meetings, and no disrespect to anybody at this table if anybody did this, but I've seen no votes. Like I've seen no
Didn't participate.
silence.
Got
I've
it.
seen silence. So I would ask that we either vote yes, no, or abstain. But silence is not an option. If we can enforce that on each other, take a responsibility to do.
We shouldn't
To vote.
even really abstain.
Yeah, there are only.
Well, she had a good example.
Well, I abstained, which I think it was the right thing to do because we're voting on my husband getting on a committee.
Yeah.
There's nothing financial. That's not it's not
No,
recusal.
it's more of a-
It's
yeah.
an abstention.
I'd call that recusal, which I would, but.
Yeah.
I'm used to recusal. You leave the room, you don't even,
Yeah.
you don't participate in anything. You don't listen to it, you don't do anything.
That's right.
So one's illegal, one is Robert's rules is how I mean.
Yeah, but-
Anybody can correct me on that.
But, and you were proper to abstain, but because you had a personal
Right,
issue at stake,
right.
but you should not, you are supposed to vote one way or the other,
Correct.
unless you have
Correct.
one of the reasons for abstaining, which personal
Right.
gain or personal interest is one,
Right.
you should be voting. If it's a hard issue and you just don't, you feel like you're damned either way, that's not a reason to just say, I just don't want to vote.
And you can't
You're
get up
sup-
and go to the bathroom.
Yeah, you're
Same that
supposed
too.
to vote.
Not here.
So maybe we need
How does that get recorded,
roll call
Nicole?
voting always, maybe.
How does that get
Well,
recorded
yeah.
now?
Part of our.
How does what
ethics.
get recorded?
If,
Abstention?
if
The way
there's
that-
silence,
Silence.
Well,
You
I
do.
don't know silence.
okay,
Because if it's a council vote and you just say all in favor, I'm not listening for everybody's voice.
okay, got it.
Right? So, and if somebody doesn't vote at all,
So
I
as-
wouldn't know that. So
As long as you
just
have the
correct.
majority.
Yeah,
Correct. The only way to deal with that, if that's a concern, is a roll call vote.
It's a
A
concern.
hand vote or roll
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
Hand vote or roll call vote. And
We can do
the
that.
way
Yeah.
that I've seen roll call votes done, now I will say this, we've had, city code says alphabetical. Mr. Ward had an issue with that prior, and so we stopped doing that. His concern was that the vote's over sometimes before it even gets to him, right? So then, for example, the city of Folly Beach, what we would do is, it was just different every single time. Like we just, then we marked up the page and I just picked somebody different to start with and I just did it at random. Mayor is always last, but it was always a random order that the clerk would collect her votes. So for consideration, but right now city code does say alphabetical.
But if you raise your hand, that solves the
Yeah, I think just.
issue of you not being able to hear.
And visually to the residents.
And make sure that
Put somebody
nine
on.
raise their
It
hand.
seems like
Yeah.
that's the easiest.
Yeah.
If we wanted to just have it.
I don't know if that's something that we need to change in the city code if we were to go
I
to
don't know.
that.
I guess I'm just asking
So,
for just
I
take
was gonna say-
responsibility and vote.
Yeah.
From
I can
a-
see that.
It's
Yeah.
easy.
just kind of what I've followed up on it is generally you do a voice vote. And if you can't make a decision of which one it went, because in a lot of the cases, it goes one side or the other and it's unanimous. And so it kind of saves the whole reason for doing anything else. Generally after that, if the clerk can't make a decision, you generally go to show of hands. The only time I think for a roll call is just to have it recorded on the record of who voted which way.
Well,
So usually
that-
you
that's a
only
good
go to
thing.
that if somebody really wants to have that record.
Probably 90% of our votes are unanimous
Right.
anyway.
They
which is
are,
why
but I
I-
think being on the record for your vote is important. You know, whether you
Well,
vote.
actually, I guess it's the mayor that actually calls the vote on the vocal, right?
Mhm.
I think anybody can call for a
Anybody can.
roll call.
Anybody can call for roll, but if it's a vote by voice, it's the mayor's decision of
Yeah.
which was loudest, but
But we can raise the hands as the
Yeah.
easy change. In a good optic.
So Nicole, what did you say what does the code say right now?
Alphabetical.
So like it says that we have to do roll call or if
No,
we do roll
if we
call?
do.
Oh, gotcha.
And that for David and for Bev, I mean, I'd encourage you guys to hammer Emma and Massey next week and just ask them all the things. I mean, you guys are gonna be sitting in those
I will.
new legislative things. I just keep
Yeah.
asking them all the
And I
things
know
and
we've
bring it
got-
back. I would love to hear what they say.
January's getting pretty full, but we could do it February. Maybe have an MASC rep or somebody here.
Desiree.
You did just get a very full, I'm assuming all those things were identified as workshop or for the February workship. You have a
And the
very-
ca- and
you
the
have a very-
county too, yeah.
And the county.
Or they don't all have to be solved in February.
Yeah, that is true.
No further business? Oh,
So I
sorry,
would just
sorry,
say,
sorry.
as a follow-up, we will send out the slides that you all had today. We'll post those on the other documents next to this agenda. We will work on the summary sheet with the next committee assignment and a proposed kind of time frame. We'll send that out. If we missed anything, again, don't reply to all, but if you would just send us individual comments back of things that we missed, that'll be our next steps.
Staff, thank you all for.
And it was
Yes, thank you.
Sean and Deborah put all this
Yeah.
together, so thank you.
Thank you.
I had like just one final note, and that's like going forward to all the meetings. I'd like to see us return to some semblance of a rudimentary following of Robert's Rules of Order, in particular as far as discussion manners goes. I'd like it, if you have questions for department heads or whatever, write them down before the meeting so that you can present your questions in a concise manner and show respect for other council members. If you have comments, make your comments. Don't make another comment until everybody else at the table's had a chance to comment. If you everybody else has a comment or they don't, and you get one more chance, please hold your comments to 2 times. And so we don't have the problem of conversations being dominated by one or more council members. That's just a request of mine. That's just basic Robert's Rules of Order.
No further business.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. Off record at 1:59.
Wow. 1 minute to